It is February 13th, 2017. This is Owen Sound City Council. We started in a closed session at about 6:30 to discuss two matters now coming out into the open session. We've got a very full schedule tonight, so grab a bag of popcorn, a couple of pops, and hang in. We won't have any commercials before the end. Disclosure pecuniary interest. No, first I'm going to additional items, aren't I? Any additional items? Perfect, I like that. Now going to disclosure pecuniary interest, the general nature thereof. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. A question for the clerk, if I might. There's a deputation tonight from the Owen Sound Professional Firefighters. Can you inform me the nature of that deputation?
Yes, through Your Worship, the deputation is a presentation of a grievance in accordance with the Owen Sound Professional Firefighters Association collective agreement.
And then, Your Worship, I'll be declaring a pecuniary interest for that item due to my employment.
Thank you. If there's any others that come up during the night, stick your hand up, wave, and we'll do the appropriate thing at the appropriate time. Number 5, confirmation of minutes.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gregg, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on January 30th, 2017, as printed, be adopted.
All in favor? That's carried. That's set.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that the minutes of the budget public meeting held on January 30th, 2017, as printed, be adopted.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Number 6 is a resolution.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So we're now in committee of the whole. At number 7 on the agenda, we have no public meetings. Number 8 is deputations, and there's 4 tonight. First one is from Colleen Purdon and Jackie Ralph. Welcome.
Ooh, that's good. Hello, we're back again. I can't believe it's already been a year since we were here last time, but Colleen and I are here to speak on behalf of the Grey Bruce One World Festival. There we go. Originally started as a project of the Inclusive Communities Committee, and recently, the last couple of years, in partnership with Community Living Owen Sound and District 2 are now the managers of our funds and all that great paperwork stuff. Our background is over 12 years now that the Inclusive Communities Committee has been working to, just like the name sounds, create inclusive communities. Part of that work was the One World Festival, which, as you can see on this slide, I can't believe we've had 6 already, and we are here talking about and planning for our 7th One World Festival. The purpose is actually to build respectful relationships among all our citizens that live in Grey Bruce counties, as well as to develop more inclusive communities. We hope to do this through the month of May. Our event is the biggest of the events that happen in May, but we always encourage other agencies and groups to also do the same. Our objective is to engage as many diverse individuals as we can, including schools, groups, businesses, anyone who has the ability to be there that day to bring awareness of their diversity. We raise awareness of our heritage, and I just made sure to recognize our heritage past and present and future, because our heritage changes all the time. We build skills and capacity, and we just celebrate. It's a whole day of celebration. Our objectives are always to increase attendance each year, and this isn't just through the number of kids that come, the number of individuals that come, but it's also through the number of folks that represent that day, who bring their own displays, their own activities, their own skills. Our goal is to get as much enthusiasm about this topic of diversity and celebration as we can. And we do that through so many things, music and art. But mostly, at the end of the day, we want everybody to say, hey, do it again next year. That's always the best thing you can ask for. So here's just some pictures from last year's event. You're going to see, of course, dancing is a big part of it, and music is also a big part under that big tent that we have. We have art. Lots of art projects go on during that day. There's tons of different folks come from all different corners of Grey & Bruce to celebrate with us. We have lots of conversations, young and old speaking together. We have lots of community engagement in terms of the folks that attend and the folks that bring information. We have lots of learning that happens. That is utmost to the event itself, that it isn't just so much as, hey, bring a display and hand out your pamphlets, but that there be an activity that you can do right at that display to teach somebody in the community something new. Under One Sky is the theme this year, so each year we've had a different theme, and we just thought that best represented the type of message we're sending this year. Is we're all here and we all share the same sun, we all share the same moon, we all share the same blue sky, and we want folks in our community to also recognize that. There's lots of things there. You'll see there's arts and crafts, spoken word, storytelling, and lots of things going on in the different parts of the downtown. So new this year, as the reason we're here today is City Hall's under construction, and so we have asked for just a switcheroo of our location. So we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could move to First Avenue West? A lot of the last couple of years, we've added more activities to the library and the art gallery and St. Andrews. So we found that people didn't always necessarily know there was stuff going on there. So just for all those things put together, we're hoping to just move one block over and actually take over that whole space between 8th and 9th in front of the library. It's got more space for dancing, which is always a big part of our day. Boy, you guys are really solemn tonight. Okay. So and lots of outdoor space that we can do more chalk drawings, and we can really just spread out is the big key for moving. So most part of our delegation, and Joe would have sent some stuff in writing to you, is to ask for support in that road closure for that day. There's all those other little bits and pieces that come with it, garbage cans and safety vests that we usually borrow from Doug Cleverly for the day. But there's also all that great media and social media. You guys have that amazing tall gentleman who does all his media stuff, and he's really, really good at creating a buzz. So any help we can get through that is always appreciated. You guys are always great at, and I should know his name, I feel bad that I don't. You always are great at providing some parking spots for our display folks and our performers. And as well, we always invite everyone at council to come and participate and see the displays. So an event like this wouldn't happen without all the folks that provide funds for all those bits and pieces. So this screen just helps list all those wonderful folks who sponsor this event year after year after year. Bruce Power comes out year after year. OPG is there. The Teachers Federation, our local unions, teachers unions are there. Of course, the art gallery, the library, all those folks put in time and effort and dollars. Community Living for the last couple of years, again, has really taken an extra step in helping us manage all our dollars and help us budget, do all that paperwork. And then there's different folks that sit on the committee and help us plan. And then, of course, our biggest thing are those two, the folks that come every year and share everything that makes them unique, makes them diverse, makes them individuals. And it wouldn't be a One World Diversity Festival with all the folks that come and do those things. So we always ask ourselves, how do we create a positive, respectful community where each person is valued and feels valued with their difference? And to steal a quote from John Dorland, who is a speaker who goes out and about, he puts it so well. He says, "I'm not different from you. I'm actually different like you." And that's what we love most about Grey Bruce is our area is made up of so many amazing places and things and people and food and music and culture, and we just want to celebrate that. So the actual date of the event is this year is May 18th. So once again, it's a Thursday. It takes place during that school day, so we can welcome all those school kids from out and about. So it runs from about 9:30 till 2:30. So if you've been there before, you'll see all those big buses pulling up between 9 and 9:30 and dropping all the kids off, and they all come back at 2:30 and pick everybody back up. And it's a full day. The kids bring their lunches. Of course, lots of the community come and support us as well. And it's just a great day. So we thank our council members, we thank our mayor, we thank the whole group of people who are here today, and Rogers Cable for watching, for accepting our request and letting us speak tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Ralph. No, Ms. Purdon, it's your turn to dance.
Okay, I'll go right now.
Good, thank you. Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Worship. First of all, I'd just like to say thanks to Jackie and Colleen for coming and do this presentation. This is the third time I've seen it, and every single time you get me a little more excited for it. I don't think festivals such as this get enough credit for what they do to the community, both for our youth in the community, and just actually pushing off a positive image of everyone around us, and especially with everything that's going on in the world, events like this is ever more important. So thank you for continuing to do it, and thank you to the festival group and the ongoing community committees who really do this and make it a special event. Further than that, Your Worship, I would also like to move up the report 11A1, which would actually be the report for the request from...
Everyone's okay with that? Don't see anyone argue. Can't remember who's presenting it. Ken, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's not very much that I think I can add to our guest presentation. It's unfortunate that we won't be able to have the celebration in its usual location, but I think they've come up with an excellent alternative. There's going to be all manner of logistical issues that we'll have to get around, but at the end of the day, staff don't see any difficulty with achieving that, and therefore the staff recommendation is that the change be approved.
Councillor Dodd, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. After that, I would move the recommendations listed in the report. That's it. Thank you again. I really appreciate that. So I'll move those recommendations.
Other comments? Call the question. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. On for another year.
Your Worship, before with Jackie, this is a little bit off topic, but will you be coming to council sometime in the near future about, I know I cornered you at Walmart, about doing the expansion of the gardening project through Aviva?
So funny enough, as soon as I saw the whites of your eyes, I wrote it down. I'm like, hey,
Good,
we got to talk
good.
to Mr. Dodd about that. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Our next deputation is from Jamie Walpole, Festival of Northern Lights.
My name is Jamie Walpole.
Jamie, I'll get you to hit that button again so the red light comes on.
Oh, that's
There
embarrassing.
we go. First time here?
Find this stuff tricky. My name is Jamie Walpole. I'm representing the Festival of Northern Lights tonight. Just like to give a brief overview of 2016 and a look into 2017. Last year, we made a decision to move opening day from the regular Friday night to Saturday, where we could start the event a little earlier, add a variety of things to see and do. And it went well. I've learned through the festival that if you want to pick a night guaranteeing rain, we can do that for you. So we held an event starting at 3 o'clock with a variety of things to see and do, including stuff at the Farmers Market, Tom Thompson Art Gallery, Queen's Park, the library. What we were hoping to do was make this more than just an event that started at 6 o'clock with some light entertainment, the fireworks and then the lights. We wanted to make it more of a community event. Through doing this process, we learned a great deal. There's some pictures of some of the things we were doing. We had a massive turnout. It was a very successful night considering the weather that we had. Everyone loves the fireworks. We also learned that in a cold, rainy night that you can start a countdown at 10 and end it at 7 before you start off the fireworks. In 2016, we also had some new displays. We rearranged a lot of our displays, and the NOMA lights on 2nd Ave East were restrung with LED in a joint project with the city. This is one of the newer displays that we had, using some new technology. This Christmas tree actually has an operating system in RAM and all kinds of goodies, so I'm hoping that some sound will come out of this. Neat. If you turn your head sideways, you're able to quite easily see that tree flashing quite nicely. So that is using an actual computer system that syncs music to lights, something that we haven't had before. We tried it as a pilot project of where displays need to go to get some excitement, and it worked pretty well. And these are snowmen that you won't find anywhere else. Again, they sync up with the computer that controls lights and sound. And there's actually music playing with those. I won't sing. What we're trying to do is draw new and interesting displays, change the festival, roll with the times. In addition to some new displays, new lights, we also held an event on December 17th. What we're looking into is if there's interest in the community to participate in events more than just on our opening night. So we held an evening with Santa. It was a very simple event. We're at the farmer's market where there was crafts, hot chocolate, music, and a lot of fun. Santa Claus was there to actually take time, spend time with the children, and allow parents, anybody could get their picture taken with Santa. Obviously, festival is important for us to try and keep our events with no cost. There was also free wagon rides around the lights. We had an Owen Sound Subaru sponsored our night. We only advertised this on social media to keep the cost down. We had, again, another rainy, cold night. About 250 people turned out, so we deemed that quite a success. So, in running a festival of this type, it's 7 weeks a year, and there are some challenges with it. Our volunteers are second to none. I would have this team of people work on any project. They're hardworking, dedicated, and truly passionate about this. To put this festival together, you're looking between 60 and 80 volunteers. As an example, a small team did the removal and maintenance of the displays in January and put about 270 hours in January. These are volunteers. So for us, getting new volunteers is a challenge. Our displays are aging. They require more and more maintenance, and there's going to be more cost to that. Grants, the granting methodology has changed. It's not as easy for us to qualify grants anymore. And we need to be very cautious of every dollar we spend. So, how do we meet those challenges? For volunteers, we're going to try and change the dynamic. We're just not going to rely on people that have done it and done it the same way for a long, long time. We need to get them some assistance. So we look at setting up and tearing down on weekends. Right now we do it during the week because that's when we can facilitate the use of city trucks and resources. We need to change that. We can get a few more resources on the weekend that could certainly help. So we need to look into how can we make that happen. Collaborating with other groups, including schools. We've reached out, we're forming a relationship with the local high schools. Get them on board and they'll help us. As far as aging displays, we have to look at all of our displays. We just can't keep all of them. We need to start bringing in some new ones and rotating out the older ones and make sure that they're designed with maintenance in mind. Grants, we're going to continue to try hard. We'll continue to look. We'll continue to research, and we'll continue to apply. And budgeting, we look at every dollar we can when we look at creating an accurate budget. One of the areas that we look to work towards growing is our sponsorship. Our community, our business community, is very, very generous. We work well with them. So for 2017, it's our 30th year. Along with our celebration, there's a lot of celebrations I hear this year. So we're going to try and get some displays that celebrate Canada, celebrate Owen Sound, and celebrate some of the other areas that are experiencing celebrations this year. We want to continue on with the technology and the new light displays. We're going to work with our community partners. That was perhaps the biggest lesson of 2016 is we need to open our arms to everybody. We can work with everybody and it'll benefit everybody. As part of that, we want to grow the tourism and economic impact that the festival have. We have a very unique event. 7 weeks a year we have Christmas lights, which is pretty unparalleled. Let's grow this and make it into something even more special. Partnerships, partnering with restaurants, hotels. We're going to work with anybody who wants to work with us and truly make this even greater. And we have to continue to build a sustainable festival. We need to ensure that this can keep going on and on. Oh, and I need to mention, as I'd be remiss in not doing that, May 13th on Saturday, we're having our trivia night, 6 p.m. It'll be at the Bay Shore, and there's prizes for first place, second place, best decorated table, and best costumes. $100, $120 per table, but you can get the early bird rate of $100 per table. So please come and show us how much you know, and you can contact us at info@owensoundfestivalnorlights.com, or our extension with the city number is 1225. We, as a group, need to have some special thank yous. The City of Owen Sound is a very strong supporter of ours and has been for since the beginning. That includes all levels of staff, the taxpayers, everyone. So it's pretty humbling. Also, our business community and families, they stand behind us very, very strongly every year. As I mentioned earlier, our set of volunteers are second to none. Truly an amazing group who have worked on this for a long time. And lastly, our community. Our community's always there, strong attendance every year, and it certainly makes it worthwhile. So, thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Brian? Councilor O'Leary?
Thanks, Jamie, for the deputation. I just wanted to also thank you for attending the DIA meeting last week. We had a good discussion with Jamie, and after the little bump in the road we had last year, I think we're all on the same page. So
Agreed. Yeah.
My observations, I think I know why the fireworks went off 10 seconds too early. You had the mayor pull the handle. It was wonderful to be there with so many people. It obviously worked on the Saturday night, which everyone had concerns about. All of council, I think, were there, and it was wonderful to be joined by Councillor Carleen Keeshig from the Chippewas of Maywash as we're looking at Truth and Reconciliation. It's really appreciated that you invited our friends from the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, and also our MPP, Bill Walker, was there. One question, a couple years ago you had a magazine, a winter magazine, that was yours, that there was advertising. Are you still doing that?
That it was taken over by Owen Sound Tourism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So revenues don't go to you the same way then?
No.
Okay.
And it was simply our volunteer effort didn't have the resources to make that work efficiently. It's a much stronger publication which we participate in.
I got that question the other day and I didn't know the answer. That's why I'm asking.
Certainly.
Good. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Councilor Gregg?
Thanks, everybody. I'd just like to say last year being on the committee, it was a pleasure of mine to sit on the committee and commend all the members and the volunteers with the festival. I know from an economic development perspective, just in one night, we held a run around the lights, Festival 5K, and we jammed Norma Jeans to the point where we got in trouble for not allowing them enough notice on how many people were actually there, and they were understaffed. So it has a tremendous impact for 7 weeks throughout Owen Sound, with people coming to the city and checking it out, staying, eating, dining. And I think that night just is completely representative of what it does. So congratulations again to everyone on the committee, and another successful year. I just wonder, there's a couple minutes coming forward later tonight. If anyone has any questions on those, Mr. Walpole's here right now, that he could answer them.
Seeing none. Thank you. Good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We look forward to 2017. So next on our agenda, 8C, is a deputation from Mr. Cruselbrink on extending the current development charges. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Mayor and body, members of council, staff, city residents. In regards to City of Owen Sound development charges, I know the holiday's going to end. That was we have had for 2 years, and I'd just like to make a few notes, say a few things, and I got a piece of paper here that I can hand to you all once I get finished, if that's okay. In 2015, after considerable thought, the City of Owen Sound passed Bylaw 2015-080 to establish development charges. The bylaw sets out the rates to be collected over a 5-year period for various types of building permits. While contemplating this bylaw, council and staff included policy to recognize several concerns that the city's tax base was not expanding and new growth was not at levels consistent with other competing municipalities. Section 10.3 was added to the bylaw to encourage residential development within the city. This innovative policy essentially allowed for a 2-year holiday for development charge fees. As noted in the bylaw, this exemption is set to end March 1st, 2017. Unfortunately, many of these same concerns are still a reality. Growth, specifically new home construction, remains a hindrance for the construction industry. Over the past 2 years, our firm has taken out, I think we said 23, but it's actually 27 building permits for new single detached homes in Owen Sound. We would like this number to be higher, but the current absorption rates do not allow for the additional construction. It should also be noted that new subdivisions will also allow a delay due to the current rate of new home building. We feel that given the current conditions in Owen Sound, adding more costs to pay for growth-related infrastructure is not warranted, as there is simply very limited growth. Let the industry evolve and move towards a level that will benefit all parties. To put this into context, it will take nearly 10 years just to collect enough development charges to simply pay for the consultant studies detailed within the background study. Additionally, it will take around 150 years to collect sufficient funds to cover the over $17 million in costs to be recovered from development charges for various city endeavors. It will also take over a year to pay for completing the development charge reports. Keeping Owen Sound competitive is also an important aspect and cannot be disregarded. An adjacent municipality is elected not to implement development charges and also offers lower taxes once the home is built. It is difficult to attract new residents when costs are considerably higher before and after construction. A legitimate concern in Owen Sound is jobs and ensuring there are sufficient employment opportunities in Owen Sound to attract people and keep them in the city. The residential construction sector is an important industry in Owen Sound. Barry's Construction directly works with over 500 individuals and purchases products from many local merchants. The point here is not to boast, but to make sure everyone understands how vital this industry is in Owen Sound. Barry's Construction is similar to other non-residential industries and provides many of the same positive spin-offs to the local economy. As likely the largest taxpayer in Owen Sound with significant commercial and residential investments, it is crucial for our interests that taxes begin to be offset by growth and not just raised annually to make up for increases in wages and benefits. And to be very clear, with the current rate of development, the development charges collected will do nothing, next to nothing with respect to moving ahead the projects listed in the study. Encouragement for growth is needed, not higher fees. Barry's Construction will continue to work and invest in Owen Sound, and we appreciate the cooperation we have received from council and staff. It is obvious that our goals are not exclusive, and it would be mutually beneficial to realize increased growth within the city. We would like to be part of the solution as a community partner. As it appears, many of the factors that originally prompted the new development charges policy remain the same. Our feeling is that is not the time to increase home costs, and that continued encouragement may be the best approach. This type of policy incentive is effective and will continue to demonstrate the city's efforts to stimulate growth. Thanks, Mr. Mayor and Council. I just had a couple, if you have any questions, but I had a couple of additional things to consider. And number one would be the census data. The population in the city of Owen Sound is decreasing, as we noticed and read in the paper. I mean, if there's sufficient services for 21,688 in 2011, then there should be sufficient for 21,341 in 2016. We kind of question how many of the projects listed in the background study can be rationalized with a decreasing population. There is no increase in need. Development-related projects can and should be deferred. Also, financing in Owen Sound. It's very difficult to attract and secure financing here due to the low absorption rate. Developers often need other assets to offset the poor demand in Owen Sound. Neighboring municipalities are carrying Owen Sound developers. Taxes within the current development atmosphere, collected development charges will do next to nothing to reduce taxes due to the limited permits and the corresponding list of projects. The tax rate will benefit far more from additional housing and tax collection. There's been talk about economic development. We're doing our best with respect to economic development, each day trying to promote the city. Not only do we try and sell quality homes within the city, we also maintain an inventory of spec houses and various lots to serve new residents. This can be a costly enterprise in Owen Sound, but worth it as we are an invested community partner. The permits that we have taken out in 2015 since the holiday, there were 14 permits that we took out, 18 permits in total. In 2016 we took out 13, a total of 13 in the city. And 2017 so far, probably up till the end of this month, would be another 13. So at the beginning, when the holiday was on, I committed to at least 10 a year, so we've overpassed that. So I would request if council would be willing to consider extending the current holiday until the next background study is completed. This will allow for further public and stakeholder consultation, while also providing an opportunity to review the current project list included in the study in light of the actual growth and need. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, what you read there, we had already from February, dated February 8th, so we've all got it. You don't need to hand it out. So.
It's the second one that the additional thoughts that I had there.
Okay, Sure. I don't know if anyone wants it, or looking to the left, Brian, Councillor Larry.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Barry, for the deputation. I don't have a question for you, but I'd ask that you stay at the podium in case other councillors do. I just have a bit of a rant that I'm going to go through here for a minute. We just hit the taxpayers of Owen Sound with another tax hike of over 3%. I think the majority of us agree that we have collectively beat our costs to death and have cut all we can without cutting the services that we provide. That gives us a legitimate reason to raise our taxes. We have done our due diligence. If we add development charges, we'll send another message. If you want to build a new home in Owen Sound, we're going to touch you up for another $5,000. I look at Saugeen Shores. In 2016, they built over 150 new residentials, and they're charging $14,000 for DCs, only because they're booming. I hope I see the day that I can tell Barry Chrisselbrink, suck it up, we're booming and we're going to charge $14,000 for every new home. But that's not right now. We're at the opposite end. Not only are we not booming, we are shrinking. Let's face reality. I spoke to a person the other day that moved out of Owen Sound and built a new home in Georgian Bluffs, where, by the way, there are no development charges. He told me two things. One, I can live in Georgian Bluffs with less taxes and still use everything in Owen Sound for free. That has to stop. Second, he said, I think it would be pretty gutsy to start charging another $5,000 to $10,000 for someone to build a new home in Owen Sound. I have an idea that will benefit taxpayers of Owen Sound. Everyone that pays taxes here will receive a green card. When you enter Harrison Park, there'll be an arm and a pay station. If you have a green card, the park is yours and it's free. If you don't, you pay $5. When you enter the Bayshore Community Center, you swipe your green card, otherwise it's $5. When you enter Kelso Beach, swipe your card or pay $5. Same at the Julie MacArthur Arena. Ingalls Falls is 4 minutes from my front door. If I want to take my grandkids there, it's $8 on the weekends, $5 during the week. If you want to generate more revenue, then let's send a message that you're much better off living in the city. We can bring in more money. We can stick up for our own taxpayers at the same time. Maybe not as easy as sitting in this chair and blurping out that it's time to start charging DCs again. But nothing good happens easy. We might have to roll up our sleeves and do a bit of work to get set up for it. Our hospital takes in over $1 million a year at $5 a car. When Owen Sound is booming, we're showing some growth, then I'm good with DCs, but that's not right now. And I think when that time comes, I don't think we'll need a deputation, Barry. We won't need a letter. We could probably put a price on our development charges without the help of Barry's construction. But right now, we're in the news because our population has dropped. Why on earth would we go back to doing what we were doing 2 years ago? How much of a wake-up call do we need? And with that, Your Worship, I would move that we extend the holiday for 2 years. That'll finish out the term with this council and give the next council lots of time to do their homework and decide what they're doing in the following March. Thanks.
Clarify, your motion is?
The motion is to extend the DC holiday by 2 years.
On the same terms as present? By 2 years.
Yes.
Councillor Wright. Deputy Mayor Wright.
I want to ask Barry a question, but it's got nothing whatsoever to do with the recommendation that's on the table, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
He's here.
Nice to see you again, Barry. It's always a pleasure to have you come to council. I have a question for you. As you know, you mentioned, and as our paper says, our population is dwindling. I think I have an answer for that, but I just want to have your opinion. Chesley, Tara, Wyerton, Southampton, Port Elgin, Meaford all have senior residences in senior homes built, single attached dwellings, etc. Owen Sound doesn't. We do not have any of that single senior residences. I'd like to know why no builder will build senior accommodation in the city of Owen Sound. All our seniors are moving out to those residences. We've got them selling their big homes in the city and moving to Tara when they can't get into the Tara homes, and you know the ones I'm talking about. Then they go to the Chesley homes, or they go to the Southampton homes. Why can a builder not build those in Owen Sound?
Well, if I may, through,
Go ahead,
2
Mayor.
years with no development charges, and yet none of those homes have been built.
through you, Mayor Body, Arlene, we went through the procedure of building the townhomes at OSCVI downtown. It's been a real success. It's taken some time. There's approximately 60 or 64 units there, and I can almost say that they're almost all gone. There's probably 5 or 8 rented to seniors, and we have lots of calls for seniors. If we had another spot like that in a location like that, it would be well worthwhile, and they would be sold out. Now, that's not a total rental unit. What we need here, and what we haven't had, is a piece of property, at least I don't, where I could build these rental units. They're rental units, and they're one floor, and I'm quite familiar with them, and there's quite a need for them. So what we have to look for here is a piece of property in an area that works for.
You have a piece of property there, Barry, out on 28th Street.
28th Street, I have a piece of property that's zoned for an apartment. And the monies that was paid for it, it would work well for another 56 or 60 unit apartment building. Subsequently, on 29th Street, there's a piece of property that I had rezoned for a semi-detached. But what we need here is something that's affordable and a piece of land, and we have the service readily available to do these rental units and make it worthwhile. So to answer your question, yes, they're in Chesley, they're in Hanover, they're in Port Elgin, they're in Tara. I've missed deals because of that, but it takes not another kind of developer, but a proper piece of land to be able to do that on.
Maybe we can find you the property.
Yeah, the property that you have right now, where the old water plant is, or on 8th Street, it would be a good property for that. But I think what council and everybody has to realize that, I mean, there's a price tag on it, and there's a lot of work there to get it ready. But that would be a suitable area for something like that.
Well, I believe that we're losing a lot of our people to those communities.
Yes, we are.
We're losing a lot of people. I have to repeat that because I didn't have it on. But we are losing a lot of our seniors to those communities simply because there's no place in the city.
And just to go a little further, if I may, through the mayor, I've had a lot of couples in the last month coming here from Wasaga, from all different areas, farming and communities and this and that. And I had a couple in my office today again, and they're going to buy a house in Owen Sound. They would have come here and spoke this evening, but a concern that they have, and I work here, and I'm not going to try to send them somewhere else because I pay taxes on my lots, so I do my best to keep them here. Is they bring up, the taxes they're higher in Owen Sound. I said, well, in Port Elgin they're just as high, or this or that, but they always refer to the surrounding area. Don't want as big a piece of property, would rather be in town, but number one concern to them, a lot of them are taxes. And I tell them when they're in town, they're getting water, they're getting the services, the library and all this, and it does work, but there's a lot of younger people that are now more so on the outskirts because of costs. I mean, they can't afford it, and it comes down to jobs and security.
Barry, I just have one more question. The town of Blue Mountains has development charges in the range of $40,000 to $50,000, and they're building hundreds of houses every year, and they have no industry over there other than the service industry or the sports industry. What's your answer to that?
Tourism. I mean, they have tourism.
That's it.
Yeah, tourism. Port Elgin has the nuclear plant, and over there, yes, we pay a development charge, but the prices are quite a bit higher there, and there's a lot more sales. And just like Councillor O'Leary said, you know, it's not that we don't want to pay a development charge. It isn't that at all. I'm here speaking on behalf of the people who are not here because they don't know they're buying a new house. And I'm trying to keep them here and trying to work with them. I'm trying to partner with the city in doing that. And that's why I've invested so much infrastructure in the ground that's existing that I want to move. I got to keep moving and keep people employed.
Thank you.
Councillor Lemon?
Yeah, a couple of well-made points here. Every time we do taxes, we look at how much growth have we had. And 13 new houses, I think it was last year or something like that. Sorry. Yeah, 13 in 2016, 18 in 2015. We're not actually replacing houses as they wear out. What's not on that list is demolitions that have occurred. And so our net growth is less than those numbers. I feel that if we can get some good growth going and more taxpayers, that is a solution, and the solution is residential construction. And I look at construction as an industry. And we would beat our heads against the wall to get more jobs in industry in Owen Sound. Well, this is one we can help, we can assist. And development charges to me are an impediment. And I will definitely support the two-year extension under the same conditions. It takes time and planning in order for subdivision to come in. And if you started today on, say, that land on 8th Street, it would be 2.5 years before it was all complete, at least. And so I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to do, because when we get new housing, these people start contributing to the existing infrastructure through the taxes. And so they'll be paying on debentures that were issued over the last number of years as they become property owners and taxpayers. So let's get Owen Sound growing. And I mean, increasing taxes is just about as popular as throwing a couple cats into the dog park when half a dozen dogs are there. People don't want it.
We're going to keep moving, Councillor Lemon.
And we have to move ahead, Your Worship, and it's time to do it. And 2-year extension will achieve that.
Good, thank you, Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Your Worship. I was searching for a colorful metaphor, but Councillor Lemon has helped us out there. I'd just like to, I'll keep it very short. I'm in favor of the motion. I think that, you know, we're going to go around the table here, and many of us are going to have the same reasons that we had 2 years ago when we brought the DC Holiday in. You know, the key for Owen Sound is to build our assessment. I think we all know that. We've had the discussion many times. We've taken the step of servicing the Sydenham Heights area, which is something that no council has done since that land was annexed in 1987, recognizing that we are going to have to start investing in our own future if we want things to happen in Owen Sound. So I'm certainly in favor of this, and will support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Motion to table till we get a staff report back on all the parameters that have been dealt with in the last 2 years. I believe when we put in the holiday, we asked that a staff report come back at the end of it to detail. Well, I don't, maybe others do. I don't have any idea how many permits have we had in the last 2 years that we've waived fees for. I know Mr. Christelbrink's given us his numbers. I don't know the rest of it. How much, what was the fee to be in March 1st? What is it to be? It seems to me that for 17 and 18 it was going to be something different than it was in 19. Either way, we're discussing this in a complete vacuum of information, so my motion is to table until the next meeting when we receive the staff report and all the parameters.
So motion to table trumps. So we need discussion on the motion to table. Go ahead.
Is it not too late, Your Worship? It's March 1st that the date is. We don't meet again until March 6th.
Going to go to Mr. Ritchie to maybe answer that one.
Thank you, Worship. There is a process if you were going to
extend the moratorium. Actually, I can tell you Ms. Coulter has spent the better part of the last few days brushing up on that, but you're correct, there is a process. It isn't as simple as just going ahead tonight, if that's your wish. And we could certainly walk council through that process. I believe Ms. Coulter is somewhat prepared to do it this evening, a bit on the fly, your worship, if that's asked for.
Other discussion to the motion? Councillor O'Leary?
I'll be voting against the motion. I think we should, that's just gonna prolong things. We'll get this looked after tonight.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
I'll be supporting the motion to
Do
table.
you want to push your button so we can hear you?
I will be supporting the motion to table until we get the information that I think we need to make the decision.
Okay, to the motion, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Of tabling, yes. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. That leaves 4 opposed, so, okay, so against? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that leaves the mayor to break the tie. I'm going to vote to table for now to get a report. We can certainly have it ready before the end of March. We've got a meeting, so there might be a month in there that we're not giving out any building permits and nobody's coming and asking for them unless go ahead. So I'm voting in favor of tabling, just to finish that thought, so that means it's carried. Ms. Coulter, you wanted to comment.
Through your worship, we can address how we might work in that gap where the DC bylaw would remain in effect as we work through an amendment process, because there is a requirement for a public meeting and then a notice period following any amendment.
So
So
we have to do a public meeting
we
again?
do.
So we'd have to do that anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're really no further ahead. Mr. Cruiselbank, thank you. You can sit down for now.
Thank you.
Just hold on. So I'm going to go back to Ms. Coulter. What's the process that just before you go? I'm going to lose track here. Mr. Cruiselbrink has given us a letter dated February 7th or 8th. I can't remember what it was. He's given us new notes, and we have a letter that we received as correspondence on this subject from Roger Howard of Red Hawk Construction. Can I have a motion to receive those? Go ahead, Mary.
I'll motion that we receive both of those pieces of correspondence as well as the addendum that was added by Mr. Cruiselbrink tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? Just so I don't forget and miss that. Well, Ms. Coulter, if you can help us out.
Thank you, Worship. The process for an amendment to the development charges bylaw requires that you give 20 days public notice and hold a public meeting with respect to the proposed amendments. You would hear presentations 2 weeks before the meeting. You would have the draft of the amendments available, and then once council amended, or assuming council amended the bylaw, you then have a 40-day appeal period. So that's very similar to the process that we followed the last time, because council approved the bylaw and then you amended slightly how you would collect or have the holiday. So it's a very similar process, but we could bring information back to you at the next meeting in terms of how exactly that would work.
And in the interim until our next meeting.
My understanding, Your Worship, would be that the bylaw would remain in effect, and what we would do in bringing back a report is address for you how we might deal with that gap during the time where charges may be in effect.
Okay, so do I need a different motion tonight then?
I don't think so. That the tabling motion is for a staff report with respect to how we would undertake this process.
Okay.
If I understand the motion.
Go ahead.
With all of the information that was requested originally, how many permits have been issued, how much would have been collected, how much hasn't been collected, all information, not just the process.
Councillor Kepke.
My question was going to be what more will be given other than what Ms. Coulter has just cited to us.
I'm looking at either of you.
If I could, Your Worship, be given the information exactly as the councillor has requested, what actually has unfolded in the last 2 years. which I think is pertinent to your decision, and then the process of how we would handle the gap between March 31st, when this moratorium apparently would have been discontinued, and the interim till we can, assuming everything goes through with the 20 days notice, the 40-day period for someone to challenge it. There will be a gap there where theoretically the moratorium will not be in place anymore, and we would have to tell council how we would handle that.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon?
Your Worship, I've heard two different dates here, March 1st or March 31st. Which date is it?
Your Worship, the current bylaw has permits issued before March 1st, 2017, so there still is some time if someone's looking for a permit. And then the charge doesn't apply provided they have occupancy by March 1, 2018. That's the current holiday as it exists.
So in other words, if somebody comes in March 2nd to build a house in Owen Sound, they're going to have to pay the full development charges.
Through you, Your Worship, the charge of $5,000 and $5,000 and a few dollars would apply at that time. Council had planned to phase in an increase beginning after March 1st.
So there's nothing we can do about that.
You could back it up at that time. Yeah.
Worst case scenario, we'd recommend that they didn't come in until the moratorium was back in effect, if that's council's final decision. But we will address it all in our report on March the 6th. I can't tell you tonight, I don't have the exact answer, Your Worship.
I think we should have dealt with this some time ago, but we didn't, so now we have to make good.
You're going to have to move on, Councillor O'Leary.
So I just want to be sure here. So what we've done is put a halt to any more construction during that time. So we're really looking for development. We're really looking for development here. We're just going to put a halt to it. Okay, good. Thank you.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, what we did was implement the policy that you and everyone else in this council voted for 2 years ago, which was to implement a $5,000 development charge as of March 1st. That's what we're doing. Thank you, Your Worship.
We voted. It's carried. It's time to move on. Next is a deputation from coming to council in accordance with the Owen Sound Professional Firefighters Association collective agreement, which states that if an amicable settlement is not reached, they may present the grievance direct to council, who will render a decision within 14 business days of presentation at a regular council meeting, or a further time is agreed upon. So I welcome firefighter Mark Young, who I understand is the vice president of the, just hold on, Councilor McManaman has escaped or left. Vacated, I guess is a better word. Welcome. Go ahead.
Your Worship and members of council, my name, as you said, was Mark Young, and I am the vice president of the Owen Sound Professional Firefighters Association. Thank you for allowing us to present our concerns regarding the grievance brought forward on December 8, 2016, regarding the placement of acting captains. I would respectfully ask the council consider that we go in camera for this report as it relates to personnel issues, and we will be discussing labor relations.
So request to go in camera. We need a motion to go in camera or to go into closed session. Anyone willing to move it? Not getting a mover.
Okay. I will proceed as carefully as possible. As per our grievance, we have concerns about the health and safety of less experienced acting captains and firefighters they are leading. The lack of guidance and mentoring these junior acting captains will receive, not being under the supervision of a captain or a more experienced acting captain. The lack of process and collaboration in making this decision. So a little bit of background. The fire chief has made some some shift realignments to balance the years of service for each shift, and while in this process promoted an additional acting captain to allow for 2 acting captains to share the responsibility of 1 captain. This captain is currently off due to a long-term health and safety or occupational health issue. 2 less experienced acting captains were given the charge of the shift currently without a captain. And I'll give you some background on how the fire department runs and the shift. So we consist of 4 platoons, which include a captain, an acting captain, and 4 firefighters on each. The captain of the shift is a person in charge and is responsible for leading, ensuring the safety of firefighters and anyone else on an emergency scene, giving orders to take for task completion, taking charge and implementing appropriate and effective action to alleviate the emergency, and following the many operational guidelines we have in place for any given emergency. The acting captains of the shift will act as regular firefighters unless the captain is away, at which time the acting captain will take on the roles and responsibilities of the captain of the shift. The captain of each shift is usually the most experienced member of the shift, and is in regards to years of service, education, and training. All captains have earned their position through a comprehensive promotional process. To address our concerns of health and safety, I would like to point out that the 2 less experienced acting captains have a minimum amount of time in the position of acting captain, one having 1 year of experience as acting captain and the other less than 5 months. Neither has completed the company officer training program that all new acting captains are being given. This is a provincially mandated requirement for all company officers to complete. This training is given by the Ontario Fire College, and also of note, with the shift realignments, this shift now has the least amount of years of service of any shift in the department. So the most junior acting captains are now responsible for the most junior shift. It's unfair to the junior acting captains not to provide them with the training, but just as importantly and perhaps more, the guidance and mentoring of an experienced captain, or at the very least, the most experienced, educated, and trained acting captain. The mentoring and guidance that an experienced leader can provide helps to aid in the understanding of the decision-making process at an emergency scene. The association was told when we brought our concerns to the fire chief that the decision was made to facilitate even seniority from shift to shift and to maintain efficiency to generally operate and manage the undertakings of the department. The association has no issue with this, and we demonstrated that these goals are possible while maintaining the safety of the shift and the mentoring of the less experienced acting captains. This could be achieved by moving the most experienced and next acting captain in line for promotion to the position of captain of that shift. The move would have added no additional cost to the department and would have addressed the concerns we have mentioned. In fact, this was already done for this position on this shift. The next acting captain in line for promotion was promoted to the position of temporary captain on this shift until the current captain was able to return to his duties. This is documented in the letter from the chief to the association explaining the reasons for this move. The captain that is on leave has not returned to work as yet, and as far as we know, nothing has changed, except that the captain that was in the temporary position has now been promoted to the position of captain, a full-time captain on another shift. We believe that repeating this precedent again would make the most logical sense. Both of the acting captains that are sharing the role of captain for the shift in question have expressed that they are not happy with the current arrangement. They would like to have the benefits of a senior captain as a mentor and to ease the pressure of always having to be in charge so early in their careers as acting captains. There have already been conflicts of who is to be in charge and what decision is believed to be the best course of action for different situations on the shift. This is a breakdown in our chain of command, which we rely on for structure and efficiency at emergency scenes. These concerns have been brought forward to the fire chief, and one of the acting captains has asked that he be able to extend his probation period from 6 months, ending in March of 2017, to 1 year, ending in September of 2017, so that he may be able to choose to step down if he does not feel the situation is improving. He has expressed that the increase in responsibilities and lack of guidance or mentoring is too much at this point in his career. If the situation does not get addressed, then we are in danger of losing a good and qualified acting captain. The chief has said that he wanted to offer opportunity to these two junior acting captains to gain experience. However, in trying to help, I believe he may be hurting the acting captains and the members of the shift by putting their career progression and potentially their safety in jeopardy. Also, we believe it would make more sense to have the person that is going to be the next captain gain the added experience and better prepare that person for the role. The most senior acting captain does not understand and would like an explanation as to why the decision was made to use two less experienced acting captains instead of promoting him, as this does not follow the logic shown in past practice. He feels the decision was made at the expense of the safety and benefit to all involved. With him being the next in line for promotion, it is prudent for him to get the added experience, but better prepare him. This is not an uncommon practice and has been done in similar circumstances in the past with the department. The association believes that there was a conflict of interest in making this decision, and we do not believe that any steps were taken to manage this conflict. We understand that conflict of interest will exist, but a process must be in place to address conflicts. For example, was an impartial person consulted? Why was there no collaboration attempted with the shifts, the captains, or the association? I believe that our department would run more effectively with more collaboration and communication between the parties. With more collaboration, we might be able to avoid conflicts before they happen. It is my experience that most conflicts boil down to a lack of effective communication. For a manager to create buy-in for their decisions, it is imperative for them to share their vision to the people the decisions are going to affect. The fire department is a very tight-knit group. We spend a lot of time together working, and most of us have worked together for many years. We work long hours and many different personalities in the fire department, so we all know each other very well. All of the staff of the fire department can and should have more effective communications on a frequent basis within the chain of command. Communication should not be an issue in our small department. We recommend regularly scheduled labor management meetings and frank, open discussions of future plans with senior staff at regular scheduled captains' meetings to alleviate some of the misunderstandings and to make clear the goals of the department. We are asking that council consider our concerns and review the decision made by the fire chief to have two junior acting captains take charge of the least experienced shift. We believe it would be more prudent to follow the logic that was demonstrated previously in having the most experienced acting captain and the next in line for promotion take charge of the shift temporarily until the injured captain is able to return to his duties. This would allow the less experienced acting captains to gain more experience while under the guidance and an experienced mentor, as well as provide more time for them to attend the company officer training programs. This would also be the fairest solution and address the safety of all parties involved. The fire department operates efficiently and most effectively under an experienced chain of command system. This system needs to clearly define each firefighter's role at any given emergency. The association believes that the appointment of two less experienced acting captains compromises this system and the safety of its members. Council and the citizens of Owen Sound expect and deserve a fire and emergency service that will serve professionally and effectively. Safe and efficient delivery of this service is our goal. Thank you for your time and consideration. Respectfully, Mark Young.
Thank you very much. There may be questions. Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Mark, for coming here and doing the presentation. I guess I have a couple questions for you, if that's okay. I don't think the city's ever gone through a firefighter grievance here before, so I'm not sure really what the platform is.
Very new to us.
Right. Okay, so I have a couple questions for you, and I also have a couple questions for the Chief Barfoot, so hopefully we can bounce this here. One of the things you had mentioned there upon the grievance was the individual in question required mentorship. Have they captained any fires this year?
Have they been captain in charge?
Yes.
Yes. One of them for sure. I'm not sure, but both of them. But yes.
Was there any struggles during that part? Did they show anything that didn't take leadership? Didn't show how that those fires were mishandled?
I'm not sure I can address those concerns.
Okay. after, since he did captain one of those fires, like as you mentioned, at least one, did he approach the association at all about anything, about saying that he required more mentorship, than he didn't feel comfortable in that situation?
Yeah, so he's spoken to both of these acting captains, and the one that comes to mind that I believe you're alluding to has suggested that it's a little too much at this point in his career, with all the things going on in his life outside of work and the things at work. He's been kind of thrown into it, and he would appreciate some mentoring and not as much responsibility of being in charge all the time.
Right. So now we're talking about this as a temporary position, right? This isn't a full-time position or anything. This is a temporary position for this acting captain.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Chief Barfoot, can I ask you a question?
Well, he's going to present, I believe,
Oh.
in a minute. So if there's any other questions for Mr. Young
Okay.
first, I think it's fair to ask him now. And then,
Okay, sorry, then I do have some more for Mr. Young.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I thought you were...
No, sorry. I was just going to bounce back because they were similar to that. What would be, I'll be honest, I sat on the bylaw committee when my first year when I was here, and can you kind of give us a little bit of an understanding, a background understanding of what's the common procedure for shift changes, or if we can discuss that? Like if you're talking about these acting captains.
So promotions, do you mean?
Not even promotions, but like I know there's different, you have different, I don't even know what the proper wording is, you have different divisions.
Yes.
Right? So are these individuals, are they all in the same division that we're going up?
They're all in, fire suppression division.
And the individual that you spoke of, who you feel is more the seniority level, is he on the same one where there's this temporary acting captain position, or would he be coming from another platoon?
It would be a temporary captain's position, which it doesn't have to be a temporary position. It's just what it was called in past.
So,
But
is he going to be coming from one of the other platoons, or is he already
Yes.
on that platoon?
Yeah.
So, when he transfers him from a platoon, then what's the procedure for that?
The procedure, if it's within the same, so we work 2 platoons. One works days, one works nights. We work 5 days on and then 5 days off, and then another 2 platoons do the 5 days off that the 2 platoons. So to transfer that person over to the other side, so we require an extra 5 days off for that person.
So he'd have his 5 scheduled days off, and then another schedule to get back into the
So he
proper
wouldn't be
rotation.
working 5 days and then 5 days, right in a row.
Is that paid?
We're salaried,
so you'd be paid. You'd take 5 days off, take another 5 days off to get to the next rotation.
I suppose.
Okay. Is the new position that anyone goes into, this temporary acting captain position, does it pay more?
No, it would be, you're paid, if you're acting as a captain, you're paid at a captain's rate.
Okay.
Whether you're an acting captain or a captain, you're paid at the captain's rate.
Okay. Sorry, it's a very complicated situation. I'm just trying to get my head around this.
I apologize for that.
So the only thing other thing I'm thinking of, obviously everyone in the city, every single city department understands how much of a time or a financial crunch the city's in.
Mm-hmm.
Would that individual would have done that switch for not taking those extra, a paid 5 days?
I guess might be up to the individual, but it might also be in contravention of our collective agreement.
Okay.
In which case we wouldn't be able to do.
Okay.
It would also be likely in contravention of Fire Prevention Act.
To not receive.
For hours of work, to work 5 days straight and then work another 5 days straight would be too many continuous hours.
I wouldn't say that. I would say if he was on to that 5 days, if he's doing those 5 days, he's automatically guaranteed. 5 days are the next days on the rotation. If he's getting moved into this new position, I'm just speaking out loudly here. I guess that'd be the thought, but seeing if he could be cost efficient in the matter. But that's it.
I'm not too sure if it would work out. I think there's just a little misunderstanding of how it happens. So if he moved from this side that's currently working right now to the side that is not working, then when he's done his 5 days, our collective agreement and the Fire Prevention Act says that he is required a certain amount of time off.
Okay.
If this was done during the shift realignments, this wouldn't have been an issue because this was done for the people that were moved anyway. The 5 days off for everybody who was moved. This would have been in that, and there wouldn't have been any additional days off for anybody.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Councillor Lemon?
Well, during your presentation, you suggested that the process was in conflict of interest.
Yes.
Do you know what conflict of interest means?
Yes. I do.
Okay, and how is it in conflict of interest, specifically?
Specifically, the two junior acting captains on this shift were shift mates of the chief before he was promoted or retired and promoted to chief. So the conflict of interest arises there.
Are you familiar with the Conflict of Interest Act?
The act? No, I don't believe so.
Doesn't meet the criteria, so I suggest that's an inappropriate use. It's pecuniary interest.
I think that's a different thing, Councillor Lemon. That applies to us.
Applies to us, but he's suggesting it's a conflict of interest.
It's different.
Yeah,
So-
but I'm just saying, I don't see how it could be, because you know somebody doesn't mean it's a conflict of interest.
No, not necessarily, but there's different kinds of conflict of interest. There's actual conflict of interest, there's perceived conflict of interest, and there's potential conflict of interest. This is a perceived conflict of interest.
Councillor Kepke?
Thank you, Your Worship. If a firefighter who works in suppression wants to move up the ladder, is it their choice to go to college or whatever it is to be a captain?
It would be part of the process of becoming. So we have a promotional process where they'd go through the process, and then the requirements would be, if they want to be the captain, they would have to complete the officer training program.
So anyone that goes to complete the officer training has aspirations of being a captain?
Correct.
And the term acting captain, is that an interim step up to captain?
Kind of, yeah. It
Is
would
that
be
their mentorship period
Yeah,
then?
so in other departments, they might call it a lieutenant.
Okay,
so they'd have a
so-
captain and a lieutenant. We have an acting captain that fills in for the captain when the captain's away on holidays or calls in sick or any number of issues.
So the firefighter who completes this extra schooling moves theirself up to captain. They themselves want to be a captain or acting captain. If they aspire to that, why are they not ready right away?
The acting captain
Is there-
position
Is there something in your collective agreement that allows a certain mentorship period?
nothing specifically, no.
So then-
other than this has been done in the past, and we're concerned that it's not being done again, past practice.
Well, I mean, if you yourself want to be a captain, you go to school, you are happy to get that position, are you not? If
Yes.
there's an acting captain position come up?
Yes.
Because it obviously is a pay scale up.
Yeah, so the acting captains, where they would be, basically, they would only act maybe 8 shifts of the year as a captain.
But it's more money.
It would be while they were acting, yes.
Yes. So I don't understand why, if they themselves want to be that position, why are they not ready for it when they say they haven't been mentored long enough?
I think they would like to learn a little bit more and get comfortable with all of the
But
ins and
they're the
outs.
ones that chose to do it.
To be acting captains,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
But not to be the full-time captain of the ship.
Well, all right, that's fine.
Mr. Young, I maybe just to point out to my fellow councillors, you are here under the contract for 2012, 13, 14, and there's a grievance procedure that you've gone through. And step 4 is if an amicable. Did you read this already? No, you didn't.
I didn't read it. You did.
Did I read the whole
yeah.
thing? Okay. I've got a cold tonight, so I'm running a little thin between the ears. Is there anything in that contract that refers to those conflicts or dealing with conflicts?
It would be the grievance procedure. Step 1 of the grievance procedure is to meet with the chief and try to come with an amicable settlement.
But there's nothing there that talks about a conflict of interest for the chief to be able to choose the appropriate person. to
Nothing
work
in our
on.
collective agreement. No, it would be more a concern with city policy. So if the city has a policy on conflict of interest, what is the policy? How is it?
You would acknowledge that Mr. Ritchie moved up to city manager, hired Ms. Allen to replace him, who had worked underneath him. that goes on all the time in municipal world, right?
Correct, yes.
And it would be very, very expensive to have to go out and hire someone else to sit in to make every decision that could be a conflict, correct?
Maybe, but maybe there should be some process in place where if there is a conflict, that the conflict is declared. So in that case that you mentioned, there's a conflict. We declare there is a conflict, so maybe an impartial party is addressed. Maybe just declaring the conflict helps. A lot of organizations will have a process for dealing with conflict of interest. I don't know if the city has a process.
So it's sounding more complicated, more expensive. You'll acknowledge under management rights of 2.01 of your contract that the employer, in accordance with the terms of the agreement and the Fire Protection Prevention Act, and not inconsistent herewith, to maintain order, discipline, and keyword efficiency. You acknowledge that, so the chief is supposed to be efficient.
Yes.
And I think you acknowledge that that the community is concerned about the costs of fire department, police department. You're hearing it, we're hearing it, so there's lots of concern. You acknowledge that.
Correct.
And you acknowledge that council's hearing from it from the community, and we're putting pressure on our staff throughout City Hall, as well as Chief Barfoot, to try and figure out how to get costs under control.
Okay.
Do you have any doubt in that?
No.
Okay, thanks. And it's the chief's prerogative to hire, direct, transfer, promote, etc., is laid out in the management rights. You acknowledge that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure, because this is a grievance process and it's new for me as everybody. When I go to a civil court, we have to decide on a balance of probabilities. Is it probable that, in this case, the chief erred and didn't promote the right person, or is there another alternative? Criminal court, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you know what test we should be using to try and balance this or figure it out?
I don't imagine.
No,
this
fair
is
enough.
criminal, and I'm not
I'm putting you in
aware,
a
so-
tough spot, but it seems to me it would be in a balance of probabilities that it's more probable than not than the decision was made for the wrong reason. I think is certainly what we would be the standard that we should be looking for. I think. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Good. Thank you. I don't know if there's any other questions for you. Chief Barfoot's going to stand up and speak, and then you're going to have a chance to reply to what he says thereafter, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. An awful lot of the comments I think have already been mentioned, but I will comment on Article 201 of our contract, which Mayor Boddy alluded to, is the fact that the fire chief is to manage the undertakings of the fire department efficiently and economically. It was mentioned that we normally run with 4 captains, 4 acting captains. Because we have one captain off on LTD at the time, right now we are running with 5 acting captains and 3 captains pending the one captain that's off duty to come back to duty. So currently we have 3 captains and 5 acting captains. In order to make these transfers that they were talking about, it would have made and added 2 moves. And when I made these moves was to deal with the overhead that the city has right now owing actual time off. And I believe it's in the neighborhood of around $400,000 that the city owes or owed time to all the members. That was part and parcel of dealing with this. Again, it's the economics of the whole situation. One chap had to move, and we had to give him an extra 5 days off, and there wasn't any way of getting around that. The other, in order to make this move, there would have been 2 more moves that would have had to been made, which would have been an extra 10 days off, which is 10 days paid. And it's economics. And having said that, I believe the moves that were made, right now we have the shift transfers, and as far as the efficiency economically and the safe operation of the fire department, I think it is working fine. So,
Questions? Councillor Craig?
Thanks, Mayor Boddy. I've got two questions that were kind of left open-ended. There's a reference to a conflict of interest, but at the time this went on, did we have a deputy chief acting alongside you?
Yes.
Thanks. And secondly, it kind of sounded, that the platoons in question with the acting captains, that it was a much more inexperienced platoon or rookie, but that's not my understanding. I just kind of assume that new recruits are evenly dispersed amongst the platoons.
It is, but again, you have to take a look at the individual too. The way I made the moves was the years in the Owen Sound Fire Department, which has to do with how many holidays they get. So for instance, the one individual there, he's got less than 1 year on our department, yet 13 years as a volunteer firefighter for other departments. So you can look at the 1 year, or you can take a look at the individual, and you can do some judging by that. So.
Others? Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Chief Barfoot, I'll just go back to the similar question I asked Mr. Young earlier, just to have your perspective on this. That individual in question who is being grieved here that feels that requires membership, has he captained any fires this year?
Yes, he has. Yes.
And how many fires has he captained?
So far this year, we've had what I would classify as 2 calls, and it just so happened he was in charge of both of them. We had the 1-bedroom fire just up over the Bay Shore here, and I was at the hockey game. We got called out. I turned my radio on when I left the hockey game here, so I listened to all his radio transmissions. I got on scene. Everything was just running great. So I had a look at what was there. I made 1 or 2 recommendations to him. Everything was fine. I told him to carry on. I come back to hockey.
And did you find, you're the captain, did you find that he struggled with any of those fires?
Not at all. The other incident he had was the dryer fire over at one of the seniors' homes, or an old age home. And again, the potential there was just huge, and he handled it fine.
And did that said individual, Mr. Young had noted that he went to the association noting that he required mentorship. Did that individual come to you noting that he required mentorship, or that he had their stress levels or anything like that from being in that position?
Not as in those words. We did meet with the local and the individual, and we explained to him at that time that I was trying not to put pressure on him. If he felt there was too much pressure at any time to come to me, which he has not done yet on his own, and we are going to work towards some mentorship. And
so you have a plan in the future for a mentorship?
We do, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Chief, thank you. Just 2 questions. When you make an appointment, or when you appoint a fireman to a particular job, do you have the confidence in that man that he can do the job?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you also leave yourself available to the men to come to you if they have any concerns?
I tell them my phone is on 24/7.
Thank you. No more questions. I feel like I'm in a court or something.
Oh, it kind of is. It's a grievance hearing. So, if you'd move the people around as the association would like, you're saying that there would be more overtime?
It all depends on the holidays. It could lead into overtime, yes.
So, but it would be an extra 5 days off, and you said you'd have to move 2 people?
There would have been 2 moves. It would have been an extra 10 days off.
Do we know how many hours, I think I've seen it, but I can't remember how many hours of overtime were accrued in 2016?
In order to meet the Manning clause, we were, don't quote me on this, 2,675 hours last year, 2016.
And that's over having 6 on a crew to get 5 plus 1 floater per platoon? I got that right?
That's a simple way of putting it. That is to maintain 5 firefighters on duty at all times.
Do we know the dollar value of that overtime, Hud?
I would ask 175,000.
Ms. Allen?
Through your worship, overtime expensed year-to-date in 2016 is $198,000.
It's almost 200,000 in
Now,
overtime.
just to correct that, there was 525 hours of overtime coming back in for fires such as the Cochin fire and other callbacks we had, which would come off of that. So,
Okay, so that's total for all, where there's fires, we're
yes.
in where it's just a call-in to make that up, okay. Others? Councillor O'Leary?
Thank you, Worship. I have this Article 2 management rights as well. You read 1 and 2. Number 3 is generally to operate and manage the undertakings of the department and without restricting the generality of the foregoing, to select, install, and require the operation of any equipment, plant, and machinery necessary for the efficiency and economical carrying out of the operations and undertakings of the department. Chief, do you feel 100% sure that you're following the contract agreement, in particular Article 2, under management rights?
Yes.
Thank you, and through you, your worship, to the city manager. Do you feel 100% sure that Chief Barfoot is following the contract, in particular Article 2, under the management rights?
Through your worship, absolutely.
Thank you. We have hired a fire chief with 36 years' experience as a firefighter, most of which were right here with our own fire department. He is a man of the utmost respect from his peers as a firefighter and equal respect in the community. His record as an employee was and is absolutely impeccable. As far as this council is concerned, the buck stops with the fire chief. So, your worship, I will put a motion on the floor that in consideration of a deputation from the Owen Sound Professional Firefighters Association.
I wonder if you're premature, Councillor O'Leary, just that Mr. Young does have the opportunity to reply, and I don't think you should be making a motion until we at least give him that opportunity.
Did you want to reply?
I get to ask that. Do you want to reply?
Sure.
It's up to you.
Just a couple of further points, like the chief's responsibilities is efficiency, yes, of the department and savings, but also the safety of the firefighters and all the people in the department is, I think, needs to be considered as well as a management responsibility and right. To speak to the 5 days off and the extra 5 days off, if this move was done during the shift realignments, there would have been 0 extra 5 days off. It would have been just the same amount that were done with the shift realignments. There would be no extra 5 days off. The shift realignments caused extra 5 days off, and this would have just been the same amount. So there's no additional 5 days off. So we're talking about.
May I interrupt you there, Brian? Just can I ask a question? When does the shift alignment happen?
It has happened. This is where the grievance has arisen.
When did it happen?
December of 2016.
Okay. And when did this position change happen?
December of 2016.
So about the same time as what you're saying. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Go ahead.
As I said, the buck stops with the chief. That in consideration of, this is my motion, that in consideration of a deputation from the Owen Sound Professional Firefighters Association and the fire chief respecting the acting captain placements grievance, City Council upholds the fire chief's decision to deny the grievance. And, Your Worship, I would ask for a recorded vote so the mayor body can vote. Thank you.
So do you understand the motion? Does everyone understand the motion? Okay, questions, discussion on that? Seeing none, call the question. Do I call the question first, or do you? So call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Councillor Dodd?
In favor?
Councillor Gregg?
In favor?
Councillor Kepke?
In favor?
Councillor Lemon?
In favor?
Councillor O'Leary?
In favor.
Councillor Thomas?
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Wright? Mayor Body?
In favor.
The resolution is carried with 8 votes in favor and 0 opposed.
Gentlemen, Mr. Young, thank you for coming. I want to go back to August of 2015. Some pretty bad fires that morning. I walked down around the corner onto St. Mary's Hill, and there were two of you up in an attic of a house that was on fire, saving it. From there I walked down to this arena, and I was able to tell a woman who lived in the house next to it that her house was going to be saved because of the work that you guys do. Don't think that we don't appreciate what you do. We just can't keep doing this. We can't afford it. We've had a grievance that you've settled out already that there shouldn't be a house rule that you guys should have to have a driver's license for a DZ truck. We've had a grievance that the chief shouldn't be allowed as a captain onto the truck to back it up, the second truck. That means that somebody's house is on fire while you're waiting for a captain to come in. And how's that safer? How's that better? We appreciate what you guys do, but we can't keep afford doing this type of stuff. We'd like to work with you. We'd like you to work with our chief. We'd like you to work with our city. You've got any questions, let us know. Start working with Doug. There seems to be a wall down there, and it's not helping. We appreciate what you do. Anything? No? Okay. Thank you for coming out. Doesn't matter. Couple big smiles there. Can someone, good.
Yeah.
So slow going. This gets us through to number 9 on the public question period, which I assume there's no public questions. Correspondence received, which direction of council? There's still one other correspondence there from Dave Parsons, the Owen Sound Downtown Improvement Area with regard to downtown parking enforcement. Jeff, go ahead.
Through your worship, I did attend this meeting and I was aware of this letter. You may wish to direct it to the Corporate Services Committee, and I'd be happy to provide a report for more information to help you make this decision if you'd like.
Councillor McManaman?
So moved.
All in favor? That is carried. So now we're all the way down to 11A. Number 1 was covered already, I believe. So number 2 is a report from the Director of Corporate Services with regard to Owen Sound Housing Company construction financing loan.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Owen Sound Housing Corporation has acquired a property on the east side of Owen Sound and has submitted a proposal to build 90 residential units. This would be over 3 phases. The first phase planned is a 28-unit townhouse development. The total cost of phase 1 is roughly $4.9 million. That will be funded through a $2.5 million grant from both the provincial and federal funding sources, as well as the Owen Sound Housing Company has committed $1.1 million worth of land and their own financing. The remaining balance will be mortgaged upon completion of the project. Owen Sound Housing Company has requested that the city provide an unsecured construction financing loan in the amount of $883,750 until such time that the units are ready for occupancy and the mortgage funds are advanced. A similar arrangement was made with the Owen Sound Municipal Not-for-Profit Housing Company back in 2009. The attached loan agreement allows for the advance of the funds requested to be repaid no later than August 31st of 2018. That being said, the Owen Sound Housing Company has noted that they expect to be able to secure the mortgage by May 31st. Should the housing company not attain financing with another lender, it is noted in the loan agreement that the city could become the mortgage holder. However, until that time, the loan is unsecured. The interest rate applied to the loan is calculated at 2%, and this represents the rate that would be available to borrow from Infrastructure Ontario based on the current rates available. These funds would be drawn on the Georgian Bay Energy Fund, and the estimated interest of $22,000 would be retained within that fund. So attached to this report is the draft loan agreement that will go forward to the housing company, as well as the letter that I received from their manager.
Thank you. Does anyone want to move that? Does anyone? Anyone? Oh, Councillor Lemon. This might be of interest to you.
Yeah, I would certainly move that, and actually, the history of the city advancing funds for housing goes back to 1986, when we did renovations to the Frank Smith. You advanced some money to us at that time until we got a forgivable loan in for $250,000. But I would so move the recommendation. The risk is negligible. The benefit is huge, and we'll start paying taxes on those buildings, which I'm sure Wayne will accept. Oh, sorry. Kate will accept. You both will accept.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Councillor Lemon. We got number 3. Proposal to stop up and close. Oh, you get to do it. I was looking at Mr. Backing. It's a road. Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, the owner of property located at 250 18th Street West has submitted a request to purchase half of the road allowance adjacent to this property. The purpose of this request would be to accommodate additional parking for proposed apartment building at 250 18th Street West. A plan of survey and aerial photo depicting the lands subject to the proposed disposition are attached to the report. In order for the city to consider the disposition of a portion of the 2nd Avenue West road allowance, it first needs to be stopped up and closed. Various city departments and outside agencies were consulted on the proposed disposition, and no concerns were expressed. All costs associated with the disposition of land, including all transfer, legal, survey, and valuation costs, must be paid by the party acquiring the lands. Along with stopping up and closing the road allowance, in order to dispose of a portion of the road allowance, the city's disposition of land bylaw needs to be adhered to. The resolution before council is directing staff to provide notice and afford the public an opportunity to comment on the city's intention to stop up and close and declare surplus lands described in the report. It directs staff to post notice on the city's website and in the Sun-Times. Directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to stop up and close and declare surplus the subject lands pending the outcome of the public meeting. Directs staff to obtain a valuation, determine market value by letter of opinion, and authorizes the method of disposition to be by direct sale between the city and interested parties.
Councillor Kepke?
Just a question, are there any driveways that go in along there to houses?
Not that I'm aware of.
So the blue portion on the map that's on the screen is the parcel that we're talking about? Okay, so there's no road there now. Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, so all in favor? That's carried. Thanks. Number 4, I think. Director of Community Services with regard to a proposal for lease opportunity of the former CP rail station.
Thank you, Worship. In 2010, the city purchased the historic CP train station with the goal to find a tenant to execute a long-term lease, really as a catalyst to waterfront redevelopment, as well as to manage the city's environmental risk. In October, this council, following unsuccessful negotiations or finalization of a lease, had directed that staff prepare and issue an RFP. We did that, and the RFP was posted November 24th. It closed at the end of November and was reposted again in December, closing January 31st. The proposal was called in compliance with the city's purchasing bylaw. At the end of January, we did receive one proposal, and staff have reviewed and scored the proposal based on the criteria that I've listed in the report, and the score was 87.7 out of 100. The recommendation, Your Worship, is that you would, in consideration of the report, that you would direct staff to prepare a letter inviting the proponent to enter into lease negotiations, and that the details of that lease and financial terms would come back to council for consideration and approval.
Mr. O'Leary?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that recommendation.
Any other discussion? This is one of those good news stories I'd like to broadcast, make sure the media picks up. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Number 5, Director of Community Services, land sale and agreement for lands between Miller Paving, County of Grey, City of Owen Sound.
Thank you, Worship. This is a project that staff as well as county staff have been working on since 2012, and at that time we had received an offer to purchase from Miller Paving for approximately 11.5 acres of land, really between the Miller offices and the waste transfer station and the First Student property. Because the CP Rail corridor, the trail corridor, separates these lands from the land owned by Miller, an agreement with the county and the cooperation of the county was also required. So this report really describes the subject property. It outlines the general provisions of this agreement between the city, the county, and Miller, and provides the terms of sale and confirms that we followed the process that your land sale bylaw requires. So if we can just move to the reference plan. It's the next, yep. Part 1 is the land that would be actually sold and available for development. Parts 2, 4, and 5 would be subject, that would be where the trail will be moved to, and it would be subject to an agreement between the city and the county. Part 3 would be retained by the city, and parts 6 and 7 are owned by the county, and they would be leased under the agreement to Miller. The term of the agreement is 21 years, and it does provide for renewals based on the agreement of the parties. Prior to selling these lands, we had undertaken a consultation, and at that time the Conservation Authority had recommended that we undertake an EIS. The results of that study have concluded that parts 1 and 6, the rail trail, and 7 can be developed with no anticipated negative impacts, and that the rail trail can be moved to parts 5, 2, and 4. This is subject to certain mitigation measures that must be completed, and the cost of that environmental work and the work to relocate the trail would be paid for by Miller under the terms of the agreement. As a preliminary step, the agreement does provide for tree removal in the area of Part 1. That will also make the topographical survey at the completion of the tree removal somewhat simpler. In terms of your process to sell land, we've reviewed the process, the method, the declaration, the notice, and public meeting, and can confirm that we have achieved and met the criteria set out in the bylaw. In terms of the valuation, the 11.5 acres was valued at $68,000. Obviously, we're selling less land, and less lands are available for purchase. The part that is to be available for development is about 4.289 acres. So a resulting purchase price is $22,004. The developer, or Miller in this case, will be also required to pay the survey, the legal costs in the preparation of this agreement that has taken some work, as well as the cost to relocate the environmental features and deal with that, as well as the cost to relocate the trail. So, Your Worship, the recommendation is that in consideration of the staff report, that Council would authorize a bylaw to allow the Mayor and Clerk to execute the draft agreement, and that would come forward at your next meeting, and that you would authorize a bylaw to execute an agreement of purchase and sale for Part 1 at a price of $22,004 plus the legal and survey costs.
Thank you. Councilor McManaman?
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the recommendation. I just want to congratulate staff, as anyone can, actually I want to congratulate the city staff, county staff, Conservation Authority staff, and the Miller Group. This allows a major employer and business in our city to expand. As you can see, just, well, that map that was up there, the one that's on our screen is, there's 7 different parcels here needed to be put together and moved around in the ownership, so this has been a difficult process, so congratulations to everyone involved. I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to it? So I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Number 6, Community Planner, OMB, regarding approval of a minor variance.
Thank you, Worship. In November this past year, the Committee of Adjustment had considered a request by Torman Own Sound Inc. for a property at 884 872 10th Street West. It's the property that was the former gas bar at the intersection of 10th and Alpha Streets. It's a triangular, irregular shaped property. The proposed variance was to permit the redevelopment of the site, including a gas bar, drive-through restaurant, and retail store. The variances related to frontage, parking, and the width of the planting strip. The Committee of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board, and their decision is final, although there can be appeals to the Ontario Municipal Board. In this case, there was an appeal, and we've attached the appeal for you. The purpose of the report is really not to discuss the merits of appeal, but really how the city would be represented at the hearing, as staff had supported or recommended the approval, and the Committee of Adjustment had approved the application subject to 4 conditions. In the case of the application, both the appellant and the applicant will be parties to the hearing, and the city is not automatically a party. In this case, staff are recommending that the city would be a participant in the hearing. The community planner would attend the hearing. They would provide to the board a chronology confirming that we followed the process provided in the Planning Act for the processing of this type of application, and that we would also present the planning report and the planning opinion of city staff. In this case, we're not recommending that legal counsel would be retained by the city. So the recommendation is that in consideration of the report, that the city clerk and the secretary treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment provide the support necessary to the Ontario Municipal Board to facilitate the hearings, and that the planner would attend the hearings as a participant and offer any assistance to the board.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you very much, and I would certainly move that recommendation. I think this is a possibility. That was a service station at one time, and I think it looks to me like it could be something pretty nice up there, and hopefully it'll go ahead. Move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Craig?
Well, I'll gladly support that recommendation. I know in my first year in 2015, I dropped off a lot of business cards at gas stations, whether it was in Dundalk or Durham or Shelburne, that said, "We want your business." And this is a very encouraging development right on the entranceway to Owen Sound, and I hope nothing but the best for the developers here to work their way through the process. I would like to just make a note that there was a part in the letter that I found a little bit, just not complimentary to city staff, commenting about their full-size 4-door truck and it almost being impossible to go through a drive-through downtown. This is an example of poor planning. If you had a large vehicle and you went downtown Toronto and you went to go into an underground parking garage, and your 4-wheel drive pickup truck or large van did not fit, you would not hold city planners accountable for poor planning in such a scenario. So I thought that was a little bit out of place, and I absolutely think our city staff are working hard and diligently, and I hope are able to work the developers through this process. So.
Councillor Lemon?
Well, one of the things that I feel very strongly is you want a good entrance to your community. And for the past, I'm not sure how many years, that's been sitting looking ugly. It doesn't send a good message about Owen Sound, and we should do everything in our power to enable this property to be redeveloped I notice they are doing some sampling to make sure that everything is tickety-boo on the site. And let's move it ahead. And if we can move ahead a lot of the other vacant gas station sites we have in Owen Sound on 10th Street. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them now. This will get it down to 3, and hopefully somebody else will come along and we'll get it down to 2 or 1.
So Ms. Coulter, this is that triangle of land where 10th Street and Alpha Street meet on the west side. Used to be Stewart's and Farrell's and great. And as Councillor Lemon says, there's 4 on 10th Street from one end of town where there used to be gas stations, so it would be nice to get that back up. Any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. That's number 6. Number 7, event facilitator transfer payment agreement for Ontario 150 Community Celebration.
Thank you, Worship. In August, this council had directed that we make an application to the Ontario 150 Community Celebration Program, and I know that the chair of that ad hoc committee will be giving you an update later tonight about the plans as they're moving forward. Good news, the city has received confirmation that we received our full grant request, $32,000 has been approved. So council is asked to authorize a bylaw to execute that transfer payment with the province of Ontario.
Thank you. Councillor Kepke.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to move the recommendation. These funds will certainly help us give Owen Sound the celebration it deserves. It's another part of our great long year of celebrations, and we're still looking for sponsors, of course, for events and part of this, but this will give us another little boost up to be able to do the things that we wanted to do for Owen Sound with some free events around the harbor. So I'm moving the recommendations.
Any questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thanks. Number 8, engineer technologist source water protection services agreement. Mr. Decken.
Thank you, Worship. Council will recall that late in 2015, we were made aware of the move to make Owen Sound and the Bay part of the source water protection area. This caught the city at considerable surprise because up until that point we had been managed to steer clear of it. We objected to the hurried fashion in which the proposal was brought forward. That caused us, the Source Water Protection Group, to take a step back and consider the policies and the proposal, and came up with a plan that was far more practical and amenable to the city's needs. One of the consequences of the filing of that plan in the middle of 2016 was that there needed to be a appointment of a risk management officer and a risk management inspector by bylaw, by council. And in order to do so, one had to be trained. The only source of training for these two positions was through the Ministry of the Environment. Unfortunately, because we were brought to the table so late in the process, much of the training has already taken place several years before. Despite several attempts on our part to try and get city staff trained so that they could be appointed to these two positions, the Ministry of the Environment has repeatedly pushed off, saying that there's not enough call for the training program, and therefore we could not attend. Unfortunately, we've reached a point where it's no longer possible for us to stave off appointing people to these positions. And we're in a position now where our only choice is to retain the services of the Conservation Authority and more specifically their Source Water Protection Group, to act on behalf of the city as the risk management officer and risk management inspectors. Under the proposal, the CA will assemble all of the policies, do the background studies that are and investigations that are necessary to identify potential risks. They will work with the property owners to develop risk management plans where necessary. Once that is in place, then they will undertake the enforcement component of the duties under the Clean Water Act and represent the city in these matters. They will also provide assistance in the review of future development proposals where there may be some risk to the source water. As it turns out, all of the municipalities in the watersheds have adopted the CA as their risk management official and inspectors. So you'll recall, Your Worship, I believe it was last meeting of the Operations Committee, there was concern expressed about boundary issues and what happens if something takes place in one jurisdiction and how would that affect the city. With the CA being the source water protection group, that alleviates that problem of jurisdiction over municipal boundaries. The total cost to carry out the work for a 5-year period is outlined in the agreement which is appended to the report. It totals $65,435. The CA has indicated that they are prepared to provide those services over the next 5 years for an average annual cost of $13,087. There is a small complication. You'll recall that the city was the recipient of a grant in the amount of, I believe it was about $58,000 to fund us to get ourselves to the point where we could assume these duties. Unfortunately, the sunset for that grant is in 2018, March 31st of 2018. We cannot claim costs into the future beyond the expiry of the contract. Nonetheless, we have worked with the CA and identified ways that we can accelerate our program and utilize those funds. In addition, by being part of the group representing the whole of the watersheds, that will then make us eligible for continued grants for cooperation with our neighbors. So it's not necessarily a bad news story, quite to the contrary. We expect that we'll come out the better for it in the end. So staff recommendation, Your Worship, is that council pass a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with the CA for the provision of source water protection services.
Thank you. Councillor Kepke?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to move the recommendation. There's already some expertise set in place, and this would certainly complete the group for the watershed area. I think it is a good move.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Lemon?
Are there any other surprises they've got for us coming down the pike that we know of?
If I had that crystal ball, Your Worship, I'd be in a different business.
This came so suddenly.
For a while, I think. Councillor McManaman?
Just to clarify, Mr. Becking, in the future, if a development proposal comes forward and they have to do a risk management plan through the Conservation Authority, the developer pays that, whatever that cost would be?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you.
Others? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Number 9, airport GPS, Mr. Becking.
Thank you, Your Worship. There has been a change at NAV Canada, who is responsible for the regulation and management of our airways. where they will no longer provide services to certain small airports or certain classes of airports in the country. This will force small airports like the Billy Bishop Airport to have to absorb additional costs to maintain their navigation plans, and specifically their instrument control plans to the airport. Staff called for RFPs to provide a GPS approach to the Billy Bishop Airport, and we received 2 bids. One from, bear with me, I don't have the other company, but the company that is being recommended is IDS North American, and they will provide a instrument approach to the airport, which will enable aircraft to land during inclement weather and at night, and make it far safer than is currently the case. I understand that there's a unofficial instrument approach to the Billy Bishop Airport based on an instrument approach to Wyerton, and it is used on occasion, but it is not a proper instrument approach to our airport. As I said, the 2 bids were received, one for $27,000, the other one for $33,932. Staff are recommending the higher of the 2 bids on the basis that the annual maintenance cost for the higher bid is actually results in a lower cost over 4 years. And so that's the rationale, the higher upfront but lower annual expense over the term of the agreement. We had set aside $15,000 in the budget for this on the basis of information that had been supplied to staff, and we don't have a good explanation for why the sudden change. Nonetheless, the fact that the 2 bids came in relatively close to one another would suggest that we're getting a reasonable price. If we are to proceed, then we're going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul. Staff have consulted with the CYOS crowd. They would prefer that the groundwork on the taxiway and the driveways take place, and that the additional funds be drawn from the storage building. So that project will not go forward this year, and we'll reapply for funding for that in the 2018 budget.
Mr. Becking, I understand this GPS system is necessary for Orange Ambulance fixed wing planes.
Your Worship, it is a fundamental element, yes, of providing service for at night and in inclement weather.
Thanks. Councillor O'Leary.
Through your worship to Mr. Becking, if we bought this GPS system tomorrow, what's the turnaround time? When would that be ready to go?
Your Worship, perhaps for clarification, we're not buying a GPS unit. We're buying a documented approach to the runway that is documented. It's published. It takes into account all of the potential obstacles surrounding the airport, and it provides for an approach from any direction to the airport. So it's not a gizmo. It's not a.
So it's a software?
No, it's not a software. It's actually a series of maps and documented procedures that allow for an instrument approach to the airport at times when conditions might not be favorable for receiving an aircraft.
So if we move ahead with that, it'll be ready when?
The tendering of the proposal, Your Worship, was done in the anticipation that we would have the procedure in place by the July 22nd date that NAV Canada will cease to provide those services to small airports.
So I guess my question is, it's imperative that we decide tonight. The reason I'm asking is I am not, we see what the rest of the council is saying, I'm not in favor of putting more money into the airport until we can see some kind of progress with their negotiations. I'm not sure how those are going, but you know, I don't mind doing our part as long as the other part is coming along as well. And I know this is more like moving money around, but you know, it's just every time we turn around, there's going to be something else with our airport. Thanks. Mr. Becken.
Your Worship, staff will be bringing forward a report to the next Operations Committee to bring the committee up to date on where we stand with the whole negotiations.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Yes, I will move the recommendation. I think it's vital that we do have an airport, and if there is an emergency with a small plane out there that is in trouble at night, I certainly would want to be able to bring that plane in, so I will move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon?
Well, one of the things, the province is trying to use fixed wing more than helicopters because of the operating costs. I can't tell you the difference, but apparently it's substantial. And we have a regional hospital, and we've got to be able to get people to certain specialties. For instance, we may have to go to London for brain surgery or Toronto for heart, and it's a small cost to save lives. And if the weather is bad or in the middle of the night, we want to make sure the orange plane can get in and get out safely.
Thank you. Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Worship. Not to preempt your report to operations in the end of February, have you had positive negotiations? Has there been movement?
There has been discussion, but it's been limited. But we will bring forward a report that will bring you up to speed.
And if this motion was tabled tonight until we got a full report back about how the negotiations are going, how would that impact the June 22nd deadline? Is similar to Councillor O'Leary's question. Yeah.
We'd have to go back and talk to the supplier about their schedule, but you know, we're talking about a couple of days, or sorry, a couple of weeks rather. I suppose that wouldn't be the end of the world.
My concern, Councillors O'Leary and McManaman, is that it's a safety issue when we're talking about renegotiating with 4 out of 30. I understand the frustration that we put our foot forward and pledge to keep the airport going and try and build it up and work with everybody, but I think this is one of these safety things that there's no utility delaying. Any other comments? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's carried. Thanks. Oral report, verbal report. Councillor Kepke, Celebration 117.
Thank you, Your Worship. First, I want to begin by thanking Grey Roots, who posted on social media the first bylaw of Owen Sound, which was signed on February 9th, 1857 by Mayor Richard Carney. In this particular bylaw, appointed certain officers to the town of Owen Sound, and Owen Sound later became incorporated as a city in 1920. So that's where we began, February 9th, 1857. In our calendar, celebrations for February 14th till March 6th. On Tuesday, tomorrow, which is February 14th, I'd like everyone to remember to spread the love. It's Valentine's Day. Wednesday, February 15th, the Owen Sound Attack hosts the Flint Firebirds at the Harry Lumley Bayshore at 7 p.m. Friday, 17th of February, and Saturday, the 18th, is the Mudtown Records. They're presenting their Lupercalia Winter Multi-Arts Festival. Saturday, February 18th, also, is the Owen Sound Attack playing the Oshawa 67s at the Bayshore at 7:30. Sunday, the 19th of February, the Owen Sound Cultural Awards take place, and they're going to be held at the Bayshore at 2 p.m. So we'd like everyone to come out to this free event to support and honor our local cultural talent. Monday, February 28th is Family Day, and among the many family events taking place, you'll find lots of activities for the family at Grey Roots. Tuesday, February 21st at 2:30, Grey Roots continues with its Canada 150 lectures, with the topic being Black History in Owen Sound. On Friday, February 24th to Sunday, February 26th, the Tom Thompson Art Gallery will present their Owen Sound Reel Festival, featuring 7 fabulous films taking place at the Roxy Theatre. Saturday, February 25th, the YMCA will be holding their annual Fill the Y fundraiser to assist with meeting the local needs of subsidized memberships. You can join the various activities taking place in the afternoon. Saturday, February 25th at 7:30, Owen Sound Attack will host the London Knights at the Bayshore. And again on Sunday, February 26th, the Owen Sound Attack have another exciting game against the Erie Otters at 2 p.m. at the Bayshore. So another busy weekend in Owen Sound. Saturday, March 4th, the Attack are meeting Guelph Storm at 7:30 at the Bayshore. And Sunday, March 5th, the Georgian Bay Folk Society will hold the first of their preliminary sessions for their Youth Discovery Workshop for musicians aged 14 to 22. This event is called The Road to Summerfolk and will take place at the Marsh Street Center in Clarksburg. On Monday, March 6th is our next council meeting, and I encourage anyone to visit the Owen Sound website or the tourism website for Owen Sound to join these many activities and events taking place in Owen Sound to celebrate our 160th anniversary. Keep in mind as well, I'm only highlighting the things on the calendar, but there are many, many other events taking place around town. So enjoy.
Good, thank you. Consent agenda, Winfield?
Yes, through your worship, on the consent agenda this evening is a report from the Facilities Booking Coordinator respecting the Owen Sound Police Service's 18th Annual Polar Bear Plunge. There is a report from the Junior Planner respecting an update on the County of Grey and Meaford Official Plan Amendment 139. There are planning notices where no report is triggered, minutes for receipt from the Thompson Art Gallery Board, Festival of Northern Lights, and the Owen Sound Community Fund. There are 2 new business licenses that have received final approval, being Nagel's Cafe and Eatery located in Heritage Place Mall, and Liber IT, Liberty Information Technology Services, a home-based business located at 1138 3rd Ave West. And lastly, there is correspondence received which is presented for the information of council. A full listing is available at 11B9.
Thank you very much. Councillor O'Leary?
Thank you, Worship. I would move that City Council hereby receives items 11B1 to 11B9 on the consent agenda dated February 13th, 2017. And further, that the recommendation contained in reports 11B1 and 11B2 be approved.
Good, thank you. All in favor? That is carried. I note, let's see, Polar Bear Plunge is March 11th, and of course they're looking for people to join up. Other people? Other people? Other than the mayor? Yeah, no, I could use some help. I could use some help from the team. Minutes, boards, and committees. Tom Thompson Gallery, anything to report, Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. It was a Christmas meeting, so it was actually fairly quick. I'm just trying to give me 1 second here, sorry. We kind of basically just went over again some of the where we were in the plan on incorporation. We had a director's report talking about what continuing to work with the architect surrounding the repurposing of the courthouse and jail, and further than that, it was just more based along more ideas around the foundation, about contacting for a capital campaign to create that repurpose the courthouse and jail. Besides that, that's really all that really was going on.
Good, thank you. Next is Festival of Northern Lights. Councillor Gregg, anything to report?
The only thing worth noting is that because last year's opening on the Saturday was a tremendous success, they're planning for the Saturday opening again in 2017. So
Thank you. Owen Sound Community Fund.
Thank you, Your Worship. These are new to council. I don't know if in other past years you might have seen them, but since a councillor is appointed to this committee, then we thought the minutes should be coming. This particular set of minutes is more procedural, and you'll see more fulsome things happening as we go on.
Okay, good. Any questions for any of those committees? Seeing none, thanks. So we're down to 11C, minutes of boards and committees for approval. First one is, and the second one, and the third one is City Hall Renovation Ad Hoc Committee. Councillor Larry?
Thank you, Your Worship. The last time the ad hoc committee came to council, it was to approve the pre-qualification of 5 general contractors. At that time, we were projecting total costs of $8,230,050, and Congat's Architects estimated the construction costs at $6,265,000. 4 out of the 5 general contractors bid on the job. 2 of the lowest bids were within $2,500 of each other. The lowest bid was $7,450,000, which is exactly $1,185,000 higher than the estimate from the architect. At that time, the ad hoc committee deemed that number unacceptable, and we instructed the architect to come up with an itemized reduction list that would bring the price back to the original estimate. That reduction list was brought back to us with 18 items, totaling approximately $915,000 to $1,142,000. We went over that list thoroughly, making some changes and deletions, then sent it back to the 3 lowest contractors for a rebid. The lowest bid came from Cy Rio Construction Limited at $6,394,506, which is $129,506 higher than the original estimate from our architect. The ad hoc committee then added $185,800 worth of items back into the budget after thoroughly discussing with staff. If approved through council tonight, we will no longer be dealing with an estimate. The $6,580,306 will be our budget for construction, and that number cannot change without our approval. This turned into a longer process, primarily because the lowest bid was $1.2 million higher than the architect's estimate, but he was using prices from previous jobs and was surprised himself how the bids turned out. The ad hoc committee never lost focus of what is most important in this renovation: improve the overall energy efficiency of the building, replace all mechanical, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, life safety, security systems, and we went over and above the regular accessibility standards. We also upgraded the elevator to meet current standards. We improved public access to the building. We combined engineering with planning staff, giving better access to developers. We added basement archive storage and print center. We improved our ability to serve the public. This renovation does not have all the bells and whistles, but it does provide our employees with a very nice place to work. It is also important to note we've kept our contingency of $438,550 intact throughout the process. I'd like to thank Councillors Kepke, McManaman, Mayor Boddy, and staff, in particular Louise Hurd in purchasing, who is a huge help through the bidding process, and what a gem we have in Kristen Schreider, who she knows the project inside out and backwards and will be providing committee members with weekly updates moving forward. It seems like we've raced through these last 2 weeks, but we've still managed to keep this relatively on schedule. I think with that, could I move all of those minutes together for approval?
Moving January 24th, January 27th, and February 7th, all 2017.
Right. Thank you.
And all in favor? That's carried. Any questions? Are there questions?
I was going to question the generator, being that we do not currently have a generator, and it has never made it to the capital needs list in the last 7 years of me going back to 2009, as far as I could tell. And there's other options out there in terms of power going down. You can have a trucked in generator, on place, and I was ready to support that idea because I believe in the long term, you would pay more in operating expenses for this generator than you would ever pay to have a generator trucked in if the need even occurred. But we just passed it.
Fair enough, I maybe called it a little too quick, but I'm going to ask Mr. Ritchie to discuss that. You've hit points that were heavily debated.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I could, I'm going to ask Ms. Schreider to go over this, but you're correct, Your Worship. We went through this at the committee level, and Ms. Schreider has those all really available, the answer.
Thank you. We did a little bit of research on this as well, and you're correct that a generator is currently not at City Hall. Going through this process, we did reach out to other municipalities, and a generator as part of a build or renovation with municipal facilities is becoming a industry best practice and common. Grey County actually included a generator in their construction project right now. City Hall would be fully functional during any type of power outage, and business at the City Hall would not stop with any interruption. The design of the renovation, including the building and its contents, to be post-disaster capable. The generator incorporated into that design will allow for the entire building, its equipment, and its business to continue to operate. City Hall can be designed as an emergency operations center with the generator, and City Hall can be designated or used as a backup for emergency lodging, warming, or cooling centers.
Back to Councillor Gregg first.
I just think at some point one has to consider, are we overbuilding? The fact that other municipalities are putting these in doesn't answer the question, are they actually using them? We've had a constant uninterrupted power supply for years, and it's not an ethical question like a hospital where you've got an ICU and people in the surgery ward where that generator absolutely must, regardless if dollars kick on. If we've got a calamity, I'd be willing to wager most of the staff aren't going to be at City Hall, and I just saw it as an extra. So,
if I could, Your Worship, I'd agree with the councillor. I hope we never use the generator should we need it. I have a sense probably in the next 25 years that we're building out to, probably at some point we will, and I think we'll all be glad it's there. And barring something I can't see, I tell you, most staff would, in fact, work their way through to get there to support the community in an emergency. But I hope we don't need it. I almost guarantee over the next 25 years, some point we will.
Councillor Kepke?
This certainly was a question around the table a lot. And I was not in favor of the generator until I was convinced that if we did go to a rented one, somebody else would need that rented one the same time as us. How long would we be before we get the rented one? We're looking at this being the Emergency Operations Center. Those services definitely need to be up and running immediately if there's a disaster. So I was convinced.
Councillor Lemon?
Well, I seem to remember we put a lot into the police station to make it the emergency location, did we not? And is this not a duplication?
It does have a generator, Your Worship, and it is currently one of our EOCs. The other one's at the fire hall. I think moving ahead, because this building, when constructed, will, my understanding, withstand a hurricane, I do think it's important that that's where we work from. Everything will be there that the staff who will work us through, along with our emergency committee, will gather at City Hall. That's where we will make it the command center, the EOC center. We may have a secondary center, depending on how things work out in the next, either at the fire hall or at the current police services building. But I do think, I think it speaks volumes that City Hall will be up, it's functioning, all of our data will be there, there'll be no need to reroute things to the secondary center. It will be functioning just as it does every day, except that it will be our EOC center. But you are correct, we did put a generator into the police services building. I think it's important, probably in emergency, that police services continue to function as well.
Councillor Lemon?
Well, did we not buy some equipment for the, or put some money under the JEF fund or whatever it's called? For equipment for
We
that?
did, Your Worship. I believe there's some laptops and a electronic whiteboard, I will call it, at Police Services. I think we will be looking to make City Hall our EOC main building when we move back there.
So then that equipment would move over to City Hall.
That's certainly a possibility.
But if they're not the EOC, they don't need it.
They would not be, Your Worship. That's probably the long-term plan when we move back to City Hall with a generator.
Others? Okay. So I did call that question. To approve the 3 minutes may be fast, and I apologize, but we did that, so, okay. Number 4 is minutes of Corporate Services Committee held on February 7th, 2017.
Thanks, Mayor Body. This committee started new year. We've got one new member on the public appointees, and we do actually have a vacancy yet. So if there's anyone in the public watching tonight that this piques their interest, be in touch with our clerk's department, and they'll keep you abreast of how we'll be filling that in 2017. But we had a few reports. Report 1715 was an update on tax shifts across tax classes from recent reassessment. Our residential Owen Sound saw a negligible decrease, and multi-residential increase of 5% was offset by a similar 5% decrease in commercial. We'll see more of this information when the 2017 tax policy is prepared. So that largely just for information purposes. Report 1716 also for information purposes on 2016 assessment growth. This being the year we had MPAC in presented last year on their latest assessment. Commercial and Owen Sound increased 5 properties in the tax class but decreased in overall assessment. Industrial class increased 1 property but also decreased in assessment, and 1 new multi-residential in row housing, which is defined as 7 or more units in single ownership, increased that assessment class by $2.642 million. Overall growth in Owen Sound assessment was 1.16%, and that reflects as an increase in revenue of $45,195. Then we got into Report 1712, which is a recommendation for changes to the current purchasing bylaw. Quite a few changes to this particular bylaw, including, and I'm just going to cross over because the first thing that changes a little bit is scope. And definitions. Those are updated to change quotation amounts from $30,000 to $50,000. Tenders from $30,000 to $50,000. A larger column to follow through is delegated authority to staff to make revisions to current amounts. So purchases, previously it was more than $100,000, had to be approved by City Council. That is now $250,000 to the recommendation. Recommendation is for purchases between $50,000 and $249,000 to be approved by the treasurer. That was previously $30,000 to $99,999. Purchases between $25,000 to $50,000 are to be approved by the purchasing agent. That was previously $2,500 to $25,000. Purchases between $10,000 and $25,000. This is new. In the certain employees who can be authorized by senior management are able to sign those POs. And purchases less than $10,000 is an increase from the previous bylaw of $2,500. And change to negotiations. Previously was greater than $30,000 approved by council. That now is processes where 2 bids are received for a bid opportunity. Single sole source and standardization now follow the above thresholds. Further down, number 4 is identical bids. Changes here is now to do a preference for better after-sales services and preferences to awarding to a vendor with a satisfactory performance record over a vendor with a known unsatisfactory performance record. That's a change from previously, which is removing the factors for determining winning bids, such as prompt payment discount or preference to early delivery or completion date. Item 39, where bid deposits are required, is an increase of still 10% bid deposit, but an increase from $30,000 to $100,000. The same being said for documentation for construction projects. That recommendation was approved, and further report then for information. The second half 2016 tenders and requests for proposals over $30,000 was provided for consideration and information of committee. As well, we had a report 1724, which is a recommendation for council to look at. We've had a private request to investigate looking at selling parking lot number 9, which is just south of, well, I'm going to say across the road from the previous Great Granite Curling Club. It is a very underutilized lot. Current information provided by Clerk's Department was showing 1 or 2 passes per day, I think, in use in that parking lot. There's a lot of vacancy across the road, so all kinds of room to accommodate parking. And the recommendation at this time is to go through the public process of declaring the lands surplus to the needs of the city, afford the public an opportunity to comment, and notices be posted on the city's website, method through request for proposal, as well as direct staff to investigate a record of site condition. The city bought that property for approximately $111,000. Property taxes are $4,400 a year. Snow removal is about $1,400 a year. If it remains a parking lot, and it is a parking lot, the direction to investigate it as a record of site condition makes sense, as opposed to going out and doing additional work to do the background if there's maybe no change in use. And the last report for committee was consideration of downtown sidewalk snow removal. There has been increased enforcement by bylaw. There's been no charges put out this year, but there has been some letters to some of the business owners. So with that, I would accept any questions.
There's a couple of questions coming first. Go ahead, Councillor Deputy Mayor Wright.
Thank you very much. And through you, please, to Scott. On the purchasing bylaw, I will request that we get a quarterly report on purchases that have been made between the $100,000 and $250,000 mark. Quarterly report on that should be coming to council. Actually, on any major purchases, if we're not going to be seeing the reports done, we should be getting a quarterly report. And on the parking lot property, on the lot across the street, how many passes are there on that lot? Would you know?
Through you, Your Worship, unfortunately we don't know how many passes are sold for each lot, because right now a parking pass is sold and you can use it anywhere downtown.
It's not a very busy lot though, is it? And the lot that you're going to sell, how many parking spots are in there?
Through Your Worship, again, it's a 24 space lot, and our experience over 2016 has been between 1 and 2 vehicles, sometimes 0 using the lot.
When I first read that, I thought, why don't we keep that as parking, because that other lot's not very well used, and sell that other piece of property, which is river property. Anybody consider that? Be more valuable than that little square across the street. Anyway, it's just a thought.
Through your worship, there is a big number in the number of parking spaces in each of those lots, and I do think that we will need the capacity in the larger lot on the riverside. I think the other thing that prompted this was that we had someone come forward requesting us to sell this lot that would help development and the maximal use of an existing property in the city. So those were the reasons we were looking at that.
Okay.
Councillor Gregg?
I should have also mentioned that any budgeted items that come in at $25,000 or more over will come back to council. So below that will remain with staff, but that is something I neglected to mention.
Councillor Lemon?
Yeah. Right now, we've got an inflation rate, I don't know, about 3%. Why are we taking from $100,000 to $250,000? Is that really needed, and why?
Ms. Allen?
Through you, your worship, the intent of the change was to reflect the fact that council really does approve all of the projects and the budgeted costs through the budget process. So long as we are purchasing the items that are reflected in the budget for the amount that is budgeted for, we're sort of relying on that budget approval that we've already received from council. As Councillor Gregg pointed out, if and when an item is $25,000 over budget, it would have to come to council for approval no matter how much it costs. So none of those thresholds would apply. Some of the advantages to increasing these thresholds, certainly time is one of them. So most of the purchases, frankly, that fall under that $250,000 threshold are often tenders. So they're very specific, large pieces of equipment, items like that. This would allow us to expedite that process of actually purchasing that equipment and getting started, as opposed to bringing a report to council, having council approval followed by a bylaw, and then being able to award that contract. Certainly, also, as I just said, these are budgeted items.
One more, Peter, and then we'll move on.
Well, yeah, but there's a question here. The equipment that's going to be purchased is replacing already existing equipment. This wouldn't allow for an expansion of equipment, would it?
This would allow for the purchase of items that were approved through the budget. So if the budget anticipated expanding our fleet and that was what was presented, then certainly those items would be included as well. Standard replacement items are also included in the capital budget, so these items would fall under that.
I'm just nervous about it. I think we're going too far.
Mr. Ritchie?
If I could, your worship, certainly Ms. Hurd, our purchasing supervisor, did look at best practices in other communities. She brought that forward in the report, and these very much reflect what many other communities are already doing. It's an attempt to keep the workplace moving. If we hear anything from not only our developers in this town, but also people who we are dealing with on a purchasing method, it's sometimes we tend to move slowly. This is an attempt to move quicker. It would be following the best practices of purchasing. It just wouldn't be coming back to council with a report on them all that you've already approved. You've approved it in the budget. As many of you will tell, we come forward often with a report telling you we're going to go to tender. We come back telling you what the tender results were, and 2 weeks later we come back with a bylaw for the mayor to sign that agreement. It's just trying to get this moving quicker, and many other communities are doing it.
It is up.
I was just going to say, to delay the concerns that have been raised, we receive a biannual report of RFPs that are over a certain amount. Couldn't we do that with this item as well? Same, I mean, it wouldn't be that much extra work.
Certainly, that report includes both RFPs and tenders over or below the amount that are approved by council. So that report is planned to continue in this current policy as well.
I'm saying including the concerns here of purchases over, what is it now, to go to 250,000. Any budgeted purchases that are made over from 100 to 250,000, a report could come on that too.
This summary would include those as well.
So this is just receiving the information, not necessarily, yeah, okay. Okay, Councillor Gregg?
sometimes I think it's nice just to maybe see an example, but I wonder if, I'll just, through Mr. Becking, I wonder if you could just identify the airport issue then that we just had tonight as a great example of something that was budgeted and has came back to council tonight. If the new standards are in place in the purchasing bylaw, how would that affect your report tonight?
My understanding of the policy is that because it's less than $25,000 over budget, staff would be able to approve it. That having been said, I wouldn't have done that in this particular instance because there's a lot of political interest in what's going on with the airport. So I would have, out of abundance of caution, brought forward a report.
So if we approve a new dump truck at budget time, there's an example, you go buy a new dump truck. When's it coming back?
What do you mean, when is it coming back? I'm sorry.
It'd only be coming back if it was $25,000 over budget.
No, because a dump truck is about $275,000, so it's over the $250,000. I'm sorry.
I'm giving up on examples. So if we bought a helicopter,
perhaps a pickup truck might be a better example.
Sure, let's keep it.
Yes, we do this at the county, it works perfectly. Staff does what we've already approved, we get a quarterly report as information. It's great, it's fine.
Councillor Gregg, want to move those minutes?
Yes, please.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Minutes of Operation Committee meeting, January 26th.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Worship. A very interesting meeting. It started with a public meeting at 4:30, read the 10th Street Bridge, and it ended at 8:55. And it was a long meeting, and it was a very cold room, if anyone can remember that. However, the public meeting went very well with John Slocum here from the GM Blue Pan. I just thank the 8 to 10 people who were interested and came out to talk to us about the 10th Street Bridge. We also had a presentation. Well, let me talk about the 10th Street Bridge first. We had the report that was brought to us offered us three options. Option number 1 was to do nothing. Option number 2 was to rehabilitate the existing structure, and alternative number 3 was to replace the existing structure. We looked at the report, and we looked at all of the options, and of course we are coming to you now with option number 3 is to replace the existing structure. We see that as the most economical and best route to go. So we have are asking them to move ahead with that to the design stage, and then that will come back again when we have a design. We also had a presentation from Chris Wilson of the WSP Canada, re the Goodyear sewage pump station. That pump station, we have 2 of them out there, and we need to replace one for sure that needs to be replaced, and because of the new construction that is going out there, we have made the decision to go with not to do anything with the 2, but to do one and replace both of them with one new station across the street. And the cost of that is upwards to $2 million, I believe. So we would like to go ahead with that. We had under our energy management, we had the Grasshopper solar lease request came in asking us to lower our revenues, and we turned them down on that. They may drop a site, and if they do, that's okay. It could be the rail trail, but we've opted to keep the agreements as they were. Going back to the 10th Street Bridge, I forgot one thing, and that is that we've asked them to look at the possibility of a pedestrian bridge across while the 10th Street Bridge is out, to take a look to see if we can have a pedestrian bridge across of some sort, and that'll come back. Let's see here, what else did we do? Under transit, we had Again, we had a presentation on lowering the fare levels and also on marketing. After a discussion on that, we decided that we weren't going to lower the fares, but we would approve the marketing plan. And so we will go ahead with that and see if we can encourage more people to ride our buses. Water and wastewater treatment plant moving along. The upgrade, we got the quarterly report on the operations, and things are moving along okay. I think that's probably the main points in our meeting. Councillor Lemon has a question.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, this is something that I had somebody contact me about today, and I checked it out. Some of the bus stops are not being dug out, and that's making it very difficult for people to get on and off the bus. Have we cut back, or is it just?
Your Worship, we have been having some difficulty with our contractor, and we have spoken to them just in the last few days, and we hope to have that situation rectified immediately.
Okay, because on the way here, I noted that the one on 12th Street on First Avenue, you still can't get off the bus safely there.
Good, thank you. Anything else, Deputy Mayor Wright?
The last thing then is that the Sydenham Heights trunk sewer, that we've received a report, and we are going ahead with the route that we had approved, and hopefully we'll start in the spring. And I don't know if Mr. Becking wants to add anything to that or not. I just highlighted the main things that I felt.
No, I think Your Worship, Madam Chair, did a good job.
Thanks, Ken. So Deputy Mayor Wright moves those minutes. Any questions from anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Craig.
My first question is something that the government can easily deny, but being that we are a couple weeks out from the OBRA conference, and where municipalities used to get 100% funding for bridges, and then it was down to 80%, and now it's down to arm wrestling and fist fights. I think we would be crazy to at least not take the opportunity to draft a letter to send to the Ministry of Transportation to see if we can possibly have a meeting with their staff coming up to get this on their radar. It's beyond the deadline, but it's asking the pretty girl to the prom. The worst she can say is no.
She often did. I am.
Your Worship, as a matter of fact, I will be meeting with the Regional Director of MTO next week, and that's item number 1 on the agenda.
Councillor McManaman.
Just, I know it'll be impossible for you to be specific, but what would we be looking at with the Connecting Link funding for a bridge? What percentage?
The Connecting Link funding, under the current program, we are eligible for up to 90% of the cost of the works to a maximum of $3 million.
The projected cost for this bridge, with everything included, is in the neighborhood of 5?
We're in the range of 5 to 7. And I'm hoping that that's a very conservative number, but right now we haven't done enough work to be able to give you an intelligent answer to that question.
I don't think I've called the question, no? Okay, so all in favor of approval of the minutes of the Operations Committee? There we go, that's carried. 11D is minutes of closed meeting for approval from January 30th, 2017. Want those? Councillor Dodd is moving those minutes for approval. All in favor? That's carried. Other business, I think we all kept our hand down. Motion that the committee rise and report.
That the committee rise and report.
All in favor? And it's carried. Formal session, resolution adopting.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that the action taken in committee of the whole and considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be confirmed by this council.
All in favor? That's carried. Number 15, notices of motion. Seeing none. New business by resolution. There's no new business. Bylaws.
Through your worship, the bylaws listed for approval on tonight's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to adopt the 2017 budget, a bylaw to amend the board and committee bylaw, to establish and appoint public members to the council remuneration ad hoc committee, a bylaw to execute an Ontario transfer payment agreement with the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport respecting the Ontario 150th Community Celebration Program, a bylaw to execute a license agreement for facility use with Rob White respecting the Sunday Morning Hockey League Players Association Easter Hockey Tournament, a bylaw to execute a loan agreement with the Owen Sound Housing Company respecting construction financing, and lastly, there is a bylaw to execute the Source Protection Plan Part 4 Enforcement Transfer Agreement with the Grace Level Conservation Authority respecting source water protection services.
Good, thank you.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, the bylaw numbers 2017-015, 016, 017, 018, 019, 020, 021 be passed in.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So we got through that long meeting seconds before 10 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. We've completed our business. It's 9:55. We're done for the night. Good night.